Chapter 940. In the Heaven Pole continent, it had been peaceful for nearly a month. There was no war between the three empires, but more and more troops were gathering at the border, so that the Celestial Empire stationed millions of troops outside the Forest of No Return, which made the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire tremble with fear and sleepless. At night, the roars of beasts could be heard in the silent night sky. Not only were there wild beasts in the Forest of No Return, but there were also the habitat of the demon spirit clan. Even the legendary demon emperor Nusslayer lived in this forest. This was also one of the reasons why the Celestial Empire had not invaded the border. In a camp of white tents, the royal flag was fluttering. In the central tent, Qin Yu invited the officials to a banquet. However, he did not use wine but tea. Teacups brimming with a faint fragrance were placed on the table in front of the officials, and Qin Yu personally poured tea for each cup on the plate. The officials watched dumbfoundedly, no one saying anything. Ever since Qin Yu, the new emperor, ascended the throne, he had always been so unfathomable. Fully tea can clear the heart and clear the eyes, and it can also keep people calm so that they won't lose their minds in the face of major issues. Qin Yu said slowly, "I think all of you must want to ask why I'm entertaining you with tea. There's no other reason. Good wine can inspire people and unite them, but it can also make people drunk and lose their fighting spirit. At this moment, if we can't maintain our calm, we'll definitely end up with the destruction of our country and the destruction of our families." Dongqing Wang squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "Your Majesty is right." Liao Yang, who was wearing a soft armor, also picked up the teacup, took a sip and said, "Your Majesty's tea is really memorable. I admire you." At this time, a strong general with a face full of beard cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, the 400,000 soldiers of the Tianji Empire suffered a tragic defeat in the Shattered Cauldron world. Only less than 8,000 people returned to the mainland, and the rest have been killed or captured. Now the Tianji Empire only has the Yanji Corps and the Lanji Corps led by General Zhang Qing. Even Marshal Baiming Huan was killed by Lin Muyu of the Shattered Cauldron world. What does the Tianji Empire fear now?" Qin Yu looked up and said with a smile, "Lord Zhou Binlong, the commander of the Earth's End Corps. You're right, the Tianji Empire was indeed defeated in the Shattered Cauldron realm, but you're wrong about one thing. Their strength hasn't been weakened too much. The Yanji Corps and the Lanji Corps still have at least 500,000 people, and with the newly recruited corps, they have at least 700,000 soldiers. Although Baiming Huan is dead, they have gained a 90 Heaven's Radiant Angel Midnight, as well as the Battle Angel Dora, who holds the Dagger of Time. If we declare war on the Tianji Empire, it will force Xikong Ming's Tianji sect to join the war. Once they join forces with the Demon Emperor Nu Sha from the Forest of No Return, I'm afraid the situation will change drastically, and the Celestial Empire will be at a disadvantage." Zhou Binlong was taken aback. "Your Majesty, are we supposed to wait here bitterly? An army of 1 million people consumes a huge amount of food every day, and transporting food is laborious and laborious. At least 3 million people have to transport food every day. If this goes on, the strength of our country will be completely exhausted by this unfought war." "I know. Commander Zhou, please sit down." Qin Yu raised his hand. Following his gesture, Zhou Binlong slowly sat down. "Master Han Yuan, what do you think?" Qin Yu looked at Han Yuan, who had been silent all this while. Han Yuan's cultivation was profound. He just smiled faintly and said, "I don't know much about the military affairs of the country. Your Majesty, you can decide on your own. There's no need to ask me. If you need my Tianji sect, I will do my best to help." "Okay, thank you, Lord." Qin Yu cupped his hands and bowed. Then he looked at Dongqing Wang and asked, "What do you think?" Dongqing Wang was the supreme commander of the 300,000 Tianji army and the most knowledgeable person in the Celestial Empire in the art of war. Naturally, he had to ask him in the end. "Hey." Dongqing Wang gave a hollow laugh, stroked his beard and said, "Your Majesty, the situation at this time has been completely reversed. The focus of the war of the Tianji Empire has completely shifted from the Shattered Tripod world to the Celestial Pole continent. As long as we attack the Blackstone Empire, Zhang Qing will definitely take advantage of the situation and attack us. So, I think if we want to fight, we can only attack the Tianji Empire and let the Blackstone Empire be in chaos. It is said that the mercenaries near the capital of the Blackstone Empire are in chaos. Emperor Shi Yuan has a headache solving the problem of the mercenaries, so he can't manage the border at all." "Well, it makes sense. Then what?" Compared with the army of the Tianji Empire, some of our troops are weak and some are strong. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Dongqing Wang, please say it. Thank you, Your Majesty. Dongqing Wang cupped his hands to salute and continued. The first weakness of our army is that it is too messy and lacks training. Besides, our celestial empire hasn't experienced a real war for too many years, so I'm afraid the soldiers will not be able to adapt to it. The second weakness is that our equipment is far inferior to that of our opponent. The craftsmen of the Tianji Empire are dexterous and can cast fine steel swords, but most of the common weapons of our army are made of iron, and some subordinate armies even use bronze weapons which are vulnerable on the battlefield. The third weakness is that our food reserves are far less than that of the Tianji Empire. Although our country is vast, the area of cultivated land is not as large as that of the Tianji Empire. In addition, the number of our army is far greater than that of the Tianji Empire. If we fight a war of attrition, we will be exhausted. Qin Yu frowned. The weaknesses listed by Dongqing Wang were like sharp knives stabbing his heart. He nodded and said, "What he said is right. So, if our country goes to war with the Tianji Empire, won't we lose?" Dongqing Wang shook his head and smiled. "Not so. We still have a few advantages." "Please say it." "The first advantage is the dragon riders. According to our intelligence, the Tianji Empire suffered a crushing defeat in the battle with the Qin Empire in the shattered tripod world. Nearly 200 dragon riders were killed in the blink of an eye. Now the Tianji Empire only has 50 dragon riders at most. Thousands of years of cultivation in their dragon nest has almost been destroyed. On the other hand, we have more than 400 dragon riders in the Tianji Empire, which is enough to conquer the world. The second advantage is the will of the people. The Tianji Empire launched an expedition to the shattered tripod world, but it failed miserably. The people in the country are angry and bandits are rampant. Baiming Yuan not only has to deal with us, but also has to divide his troops to suppress the bandits and rebels. So, although his troops are elite, he will be far less than us in number. The third advantage is internal strife. Yes, the radiant angel Zai is strong, but he is also arrogant and condescending. He thinks he is an angel sent from the heaven realm, so he will not take Baiming Yuan, the emperor with low cultivation, seriously. No one knows whether it is Baiming Yuan or Zai who has the final say in the Tianji Empire. When the time comes, the Tianji Empire will naturally fall into internal strife. As he spoke, Dongqing Wang paused and a proud smile appeared in his eyes. Although our army has 3 major weaknesses, we also have 3 major advantages. As long as we can persuade the Demon Spirit clan to help us, we will naturally be able to destroy the Tianji Empire. Destroy the Tianji Empire? Qin Yu suddenly smiled. What? Don't you want to destroy the Tianji Empire, Your Majesty? Dongqing Wang was stunned. Of course I want to, but I can't yet. Qin Yu squinted and said, the Tianji Empire has deep roots and flourishing leaves. How can it be destroyed in 2 or 3 years? Moreover, the Tianji sect has not taken any action yet. Once Xikong Ming takes action, who can predict the outcome? Besides, Dongqing Wang, you are very clear. Don't you think our strongest enemy is no longer the Tianji Empire? Dongqing Wang was stunned. Not the Tianji Empire? Then who is it? Qin Yu held up the teacup, raised it to the west and said with a smile, our friends in the west. Your Majesty, you mean the Qin Empire in the shattered tripod world? Yes. Qin Yu's face turned cold and he said, the Qin Empire can defeat the joint expeditionary forces of the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire, and kill Bailey Qin, Baiming Huan, Han Shu and others. In terms of strategy and force, which one of them is not better than the Tianji Empire? Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Su Jiantao and Wei Chou are all extraordinary generals. I really don't know whether it is our celestial empire's fortune or misfortune to have such friends. Dongqing Wang nodded and thought for a while and then said, I thought Your Majesty and Lin Muyu are bosom friends, and you have already treated each other with sincerity. That was then and this is now. Qin Yu said, in the past it was Lin Muyu who needed our celestial empire to contain the 2 empires. Now Lin Muyu has unified the shattered tripod world. No one knows what he is thinking. Will he be willing to divide the world with me, one in the east and the other in the west? Or will he send troops to the east to seize the world of our celestial pole continent? Dongqing Wang said, according to Your Majesty's understanding of him, what kind of person is he? Qin Yu smiled faintly and said to himself, he is as calm as a cold pond and as active as a torrent. He is strategic and ambitious. No one knows what kind of person Lin Muyu is. If he is only willing to be the king of a region, that's fine. But if Lin Muyu has the world in his mind, it will be a disaster for the whole celestial pole continent. We have to guard against him. Well, I understand. At this moment, Liao Yang suddenly smiled. I think your majesty doesn't have to be so nervous. Why? Qin Yu was stunned. Liao Yang said, according to our latest intelligence, Lin Muyu previously issued an edict that allowed local officials to recruit troops and recover cities on their own. This edict caused more than 100 feudal vassals to appear in the 12 provinces of the Qin Empire, with a total of 700,000 to 800,000 troops. However, these feudal vassals were unwilling to be controlled by Lin Muyu, so they established a national army and even tried to establish a national army to contend against the 100,000 regular troops controlled by Lin Muyu. Now Lin Muyu has already been forced to strip off his title as the Qin king and demoted to a mere commander. Moreover, even the power of Empress Qinin has been divided quite a bit, so the current Lin Muyu should be too busy to take care of himself, so how can he counterattack our celestial pole continent? Qin Yu couldn't help but laugh. He slapped his thigh and said, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Every family has its own difficulties. I didn't expect that the wise and decisive Lin Muyu would also be so deeply mired in a quagmire. It's great. In this way we can rush to unify the whole celestial pole continent before Lin Muyu escapes from the quagmire, and we will reign supreme. Yes. Qin Yu looked at Han Yuan and said, I have decided to go see the demon emperor Nushi. I hope that sect master will accompany me to make sure everything is safe. Han Yuan cupped his hands. As you command. Chapter 941. In the forest of no return, the leaves were luxuriant and the moonlight was bright. There was a faint fragrance of fruits in the beautiful wilderness. In late autumn, all the fruits in the forest had ripened. However, at this moment, a heavenly song was floating in the air. There are spirits in the mountains and demons on the ground. Rain falls from the sky and springs on the ground. Gather my race and enjoy the sun and the moon. Kill all the alien races and protect the universe. It was the voice of the demon emperor Nushi. In the forest, the sound of footsteps was getting louder. Qin Yu changed into a soft armor and cloak. Under the protection of Han Yuan, Liao Yang and the other cultivators, he slowly approached the high cliff in the distance. They did not fly as a sign of respect to the demon emperor Nushi. In the sky beside him, there were a few demon king-level demons flying around at a moderate distance. They looked like guards in surveillance at the same time. After a while, when Qin Yu and the rest stepped onto the high cliff, a piercingly cold wind suddenly blew. It was the sound wave attack of the demon emperor Nushi. Your Majesty, be careful. Han Yuan instantly moved in front of Qin Yu. He opened his sleeves and an invisible wall condensed in front of him, easily dispersing the attack of the demon emperor. He slowly cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, the sacred martial emperor of the Celestial Empire, Qin Yu, and the sect leader of the Tianjue sect, Han Yuan, seek an audience with the demon emperor Nushi. On the cliff, a graceful figure floated out while hugging a pipa. It was the demon empress Nushi. She was as beautiful as ever. Under the moonlight, her graceful figure was extremely enchanting. The corners of her mouth curled up as she said with a faint smile, the demon spirit clan and the heavenly Zhou Empire have always minded our own business. I wonder what business you have with my forest of no return? Qin Yu said respectfully, there is a strange phenomenon in the sky and the universe has reversed. The war in the mortal world is imminent. There will definitely be a war between the Celestial Empire and the Tianji Empire. The Celestial Empire has always respected the demon spirit clan. Therefore, Qin Yu has come to the Forest of No Return to ask for an alliance with the Demon Spirit Clan to resist the atrocities of the Tianji Empire. Covenant. Demon Emperor Nushi slowly descended, followed by a few demon kings behind her. She smiled and said, I think your Majesty Qin Yu must have misunderstood. Our demon spirit race will not participate in any war. Even if we participate in a war, it will definitely be for the dignity of the demon spirit race. I, Nushi, will not allow my clansmen to die for others. Therefore, your Majesty Qin Yu, please return. Your Majesty, please listen to me. Qin Yu continued to cup his fists and said unwillingly, the demon spirit race has always been seen as a thorn in the side by the three empires. Everyone has the right to kill them. However, There are many people who use the demon spirit stone as a catalyst for cultivation. As long as your majesty helps me defeat the Tianji Empire when I, Qin Yu, descend to the world, I will definitely pardon all the demon spirits in the world. I will allow the demon spirits to share the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers with humans. What do you think? Nushi couldn't help but laugh. She laughed so hard that even the two towering peaks on her chest were jiggling up and down. People couldn't help but take a few more glances. She covered her mouth and laughed. The demon spirits are born in the forest. This world has always been our home. Why do we need to rely on humans? I think your majesty Qin Yu must have misunderstood. The demon spirits don't want to rely on anyone. Moreover, you said that you will grant us a place to live under the sovereign descent, but I don't believe you. Qin Yu's face turned pale. What do you mean? Nushi stretched out her jade-like finger and lightly poked Qin Yu's chest armor. You said it yourself. Humans cultivate using the demon spirit stones as food. Then why would I cooperate with humans? Moreover, in your majesty Qin Yu's eyes, I can only see ambition and schemes. I can't see compassion and justice. Compassion and justice? Qin Yu gritted his teeth. I, Qin Yu, have been pardoning the world since the day I ascended to the throne. For the sake of the people, I'm not willing to go to war. If my eyes are not compassion and justice, then who is the ruler of the world? I've seen one person. He is. Who? Me. You. Qin Yu felt as if he was struck by lightning. Han Yuan smiled and said, Your Majesty, let's go. It seems that your Majesty is really unwilling to cooperate with our celestial empire. Since that's the case, we can only open the way ourselves. Nushi raised her brows. Sect leader Han Yuan, please wait. What do you mean by opening the way ourselves? Han Yuan turned around and said respectfully, The Celestial Empire's millions of troops want to conquer the Forest of No Return. Right now it's late autumn and the leaves are withering. Naturally they will cut down the forest. But as long as we set fire to the east, I think we can turn the Forest of No Return into a wasteland in half a month. That way the pythons and beasts in the forest won't be an obstacle for our Celestial Empire. What did you say? You dare? Nushi gritted her teeth and flew up with her pipa. Her divine power surged as if she would attack at any moment. But Han Yuan was still smiling. His strength wasn't below Nushi's and he wasn't afraid at all. He said calmly, This is what your majesty is forcing us to do. Other than burning the forest, does our celestial empire have any other choice? If you dare to burn the forest, I will let the people of your celestial empire die without a burial ground. If you don't believe me, you can try. Nushi threatened with a cold face. Han Yuan laughed. There's nothing to fear. Once we return, we will start the fire tomorrow. Your majesty should bring your people to hide, but Zhangcheng's Yanji Corps encampment is 100 miles to the west. Once the tens of thousands of demon spirits leave the Forest of No Return, I don't know if the celestial emperor Zhangcheng will let go of this delicious meal. Despicable. Nushi was so angry that her body trembled. The demon kings behind her roared with sinister expressions. One of them shouted, Your Majesty, let's fight it out with them. Nushi shook her head and retracted her divine power. She said, I can't let my anger bring the entire race to eternal damnation. I can't, Qin Yu laughed. Then your majesty, can we talk about cooperation now? Speak, how do you want to cooperate? It's very simple. Qin Yu waved his hand and said, Open a path in the Forest of No Return for my army. When my army enters the west of the Forest of No Return, we will launch an attack on Zhangcheng's Yanji Corps. At that time, your majesty, please lead the demon race army to assist us from the other side. As long as we defeat Zhangcheng's Yanji Corps, I promise to give the demon race a new status in the continent. Nushi looked at him coldly and said, This is what you said. I hope that your majesty Qin Yu will not go back on his words. Your majesty, please rest assured. Qin Yu cupped his hands and smiled. Then I will go back and wait for your majesty's news. I won't send you off. After watching Qin Yu and the others fly far away, the demon kings were so angry that they bared their teeth. One of them said, Your majesty, how can we be threatened by such despicable people? The demon race will be consigned to eternal damnation from today onwards. If they really set the forest on fire, what should we do? Nushi's question made all the demon kings speechless. After a while, Nushi sighed softly and said, Is there any news from the Shattered Cauldron realm? Yes, we bought new information from the merchants. The main forces of the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire have been defeated by the Qin army. The Qin Emperor Lin Muyu has found the Empress Qin Yin and has reinstated Qin Yin as the Empress. Now that the Shattered Cauldron realm has been unified, the national strength is very weak. I'm afraid it won't be easy for them to counterattack the celestial pole continent. Humph. Nushi's beautiful eyebrows glowed with an enchanting luster under the bright moon. She murmured, "It doesn't matter. I have eternal life. I can wait until Lin Muyu leads the army on an expedition to the east. At that time I will make Qinyu Han Yuan, and these despicable people die without a burial place." "Your Majesty, you want to form an alliance with the Qin army?" A demon king who looked like a goblin asked, dumbfounded. Nushi smiled faintly, "Not with the Qin army but with Lin Muyu." "Why? That brat isn't in high demand. I don't think he's as handsome as I am." "What do you know?" Nushi rolled her eyes at him disdainfully and said, "Lin Muyu has a righteous aura. Even if he is the ruler of the world, he must be a benevolent ruler. He is definitely not someone that a scheming kid like Qinyu can be compared to. Moreover, Lin Muyu's identity is special. He has the disposition of a supreme being. His sworn brother is the ruler of the Eastern Heaven Realm, and his sworn sister Qin Yin's sister is the blazing angel Xian of the Western Heaven Realm. Can be said that he is the most fragrant person in the entire Eastern and Western Heaven Realms. What do you know? What are you talking nonsense here? Besides, you wouldn't even let a dog eat you. You still have the cheek to say that you are more handsome than Lin Muyu?" The Demon King muttered, "Your Majesty is wise. You can even see through this." Western Heaven Realm. In the middle of the spiritual mountains, a floating continent stood majestically. It was late at night. In the forest there was a huge rock glowing with a faint golden light. Countless names were faintly discernible on it. But at this moment the light on many of the names was slowly dissipating and finally disappeared completely. The Shrine Rock. The name of anyone who became a god of the Western Heaven Realm would appear on the Shrine Rock. This rock recorded the glory and decline of the Western Divine Realm. It had been standing for hundreds of thousands of years. On the Shrine Rock, light slowly flickered. Another name was disappearing. In the air, Seraph Xian hovered there with a sharp sword in her hand. Her deep eyes stared at the disappearing name on the rock and murmured, "Is all this worth it?" Ruler Claude said indifferently, "Winner takes all. This is the price. Can't you see it clearly?" Xian smiled faintly. "Lord Ruler, Xian has a request." "Speak." Ruler turned his back to her. "Xian is tired. I want to return to my hometown to rest for a while." "What did you say?" Claude was shocked. "East Heaven can make a comeback at any time. Western Heaven Realm is in need of people. Xian, as one of the two blazing angels, how can you just leave like that?" Xian tightened her grip on her sword and said, "I'm tired of all this. I want to be quiet for a while." "You?" When Claude looked again, he saw that Xian already had 6 bright wings behind her. She had raised her power to the limit. Her divine power was no weaker than his. "Xian, what exactly do you want to do?" Lao Hua on the side was a little panicked. "Ruler, please allow me." Xian knelt down on one knee. Claude let out a long sigh. Fine. You can go." Chapter 942. The Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce grew larger and larger. Rows of shops occupied nearly 300 meters of Tongtian Street. It was divided into 7 auction houses of different sizes. There were also dozens of rice shops and ironware shops. Every day there was an endless stream of cars coming and going from the Chamber of Commerce. Not only did they sell tomes of the heavenly tomes, weapon embryos, weapons and other high-grade goods, but they also sold brocades, silk cloths, rice and other daily necessities. The entire Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce had nearly 50,000 employees. It could be said that the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce operated at least 10% of the livelihood resources of the people in Lanyan City. Otherwise, the production of Lanyan City alone would not have been able to support millions of people. In the back hall of the Chamber of Commerce, Lin Muyu and Chu Yao sat upright. Jean Xiaotang, who was dressed in a red dress, was no longer the young girl she used to be. She had grown into a charming and beautiful woman. Jean Xiaotang was already 26 years old. Without cultivating, she had become as mature as an ordinary woman. She had lost some of the playfulness of a young girl, but gained some of the charm that a woman should have. Holding the account book in her hand, Jin Xiaotang smiled and said, "Brother Yu, look, this is the annual expenditure and income of the Chamber of Commerce. But this is the general account book. There are more than 100 detailed accounts. If you want to check them, I'll take you to see them." "No need." Lin Muyu took the account book and said with a smile, "Xiaotang, you sit down too." Jin Xiaotang sat down in the chair beside him with a smile. She turned sideways and craned her neck to look at the way Lin Muyu flipped through the account book. "You've worked hard all these years, Xiaotang." Lin Muyu flipped through the book and said, "If it wasn't for your help, the economy of Lingdong province would not have recovered so quickly, and we would not have been able to contend against the Tianji Empire for so long. You've helped me a lot with the issue of military provisions. Thank you so much." Jin Xiaotang's eyes turned red. "Brother, you're the only family I have. If you hadn't brought me out of the slums, I don't know what I'd be like now. It's only right for me to do these things for you. Besides, I'm just the shopkeeper of the Chamber of Commerce. You're the owner of the Chamber of Commerce. You have the final say on how the money and provisions should be used." "No." Lin Muyu closed the account book and looked at her. "Xiaotang, you are the owner of the Purple Flower Merchant Guild. You have been for a long time. This guild should belong to you." "Huh." Jin Xiaotang's jaw dropped. Chu Yao smiled at the side. "All right, don't check the accounts as soon as you meet. Let's talk about something else. Xiaotang is not young anymore. Do you have any young masters in mind?" Jin Xiaotang's face instantly turned red. Lin Muyu smiled cheerfully. "Seems that there must be. Tell me, which family is it? I'll help you find out. If they are willing, I'll be your matchmaker." "No, I didn't." Jin Xiaotang stamped her feet, her face red. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "Steward Su, I'm embarrassed to say it. Tell me which young master has caught my eye." Steward Su Fu said with a smile, "Lin General, it's Zhou Xian, the son of Zhu Tong, the assistant minister of the Ministry of Revenue. Young Master Zhou Xian is talented in both literature and martial arts. Moreover, he's a good writer. It's said that he's written a middle-grade earthly book not long ago. Young Master Zhou Xian often comes to the Chamber of Commerce to look for weapon embryos and martial arts manuals, so he's familiar with young Mississippi. But I don't know what young Master Zhou Xian thinks. Does he also like young Miss Xian?" Lin Muyu pondered. "Why does this name sound so familiar?" Chu Yao reminded, "He's one of the members of the National Assembly, and the person he supports is Chief Qin Lian. You have to be careful." Lin Muyu was stunned. Jin Xiaotang hastily said, "There's no need, Brother Ayu. Xiaotang's personal matters can be solved by myself. Brother Ayu doesn't need to trouble himself for me. If young Master Zhu's matter spoils brother's matter, then Xiaotang deserves to die 10,000 times over." "No, that's a different matter." Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, "It's rare for Xiaotang to take a fancy to a man after so many years, and I'm not young anymore. It's not good for me to be alone. Let me talk to him. Sister Chu Yao, if there's nothing important in the Department of Spiritual Medicine, please accompany me to the Assistant Minister's mansion and see what this Zhu Yan is like. If he's good, I believe there won't be any problems when we propose a marriage for Xiaotang." Chu Yao readily agreed. She was so nervous that her whole body was trembling and she couldn't say a word. Lin Muyu stood up, put her hand on her shoulder and asked with a smile, "I'll only ask you one thing. Do you like Zhu Yan?" Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. "Then there's no problem. I'll be back soon. Tang, wait for me." Oh. Outside the door of the Chamber of Commerce, Bai Yin was waiting with dozens of cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp. They were Lin Muyu's guards and every one of them was very strong. In fact, they were as elite as the imperial guards in Zetian Palace. Lin Muyu mounted her horse and led Chu Yao and the others straight to the assistant minister's mansion. The Ministry of Revenue was located in a row of prosperous mansions. The Ministry of Revenue was in charge of all the wealth in the empire, so they naturally had no lack of money. The mansions of the minister and assistant minister were as luxurious as the divine marquis's mansions, and Zhu Tong's mansion was located in the middle of the complex. When Lin Muyu and the others arrived, the 4 guards outside the door were stunned. One of them had seen Lin Muyu before and he hurriedly knelt down and said, "His Highness Prince Qin has come. I'm no longer Prince Qin. I wonder why Lin General is here. I want to see Lord Zhu Tong." "Oh, Lin General, please wait in the side hall. I will go and inform Lord Zhu Tong right away." Thank you. Lin General is too polite. You are too humble. Not long after Lin Muyu, Chu Yao, Bai Yin and the others entered the side hall, a man dressed in court attire arrived. It was the Assistant Minister of Revenue, Zhu Tong. Actually, Lin Muyu would see Zhu Tong at every court meeting, but she did not have a deep impression of him. After all, there were only one minister and 3 assistant ministers in the Ministry of Revenue, and there were a total of 18 assistant ministers in 6 ministries. It was impossible to recognize each and every one of them. On the contrary, Zhu Tong knew Lin Muyu very well. He knelt down on one knee and greeted, "Your subordinate Zhu Tong greets Lin General." "Lord Zhu Tong, please rise. There is no need to be so polite." Lin Muyu went straight to the point and said, "I am here to see your son Zhu Ying. I wonder if he is here?" Zhu Tong was startled. "Why does Lin General want to see my son?" "Don't be nervous, I just want to see this talented and handsome man of the empire." "Oh, my son is here. Someone call Zhu Ying here and tell him that Lin General wants to see him." "Yes." Not long after, a young man in a white brocade robe stepped into the hall with a long sword at his waist. It was Zhu Ying. Lin Muyu took a closer look. Indeed, he was handsome, elegant, and had an extraordinary appearance. There was a faint aura between his brows, and it was the kind of unruly temperament that belonged to a young hero. Young people should indeed be like this. Zhu Ying cupped his fists and bowed. "Zhu Ying greets Lin General." "No need to be so polite, you may rise." "Thank you, Lin General. I heard that Zhu Ying is well versed in the heavenly book. I wonder if it is true." Zhu Ying smiled slightly, held the sword in his hand horizontally and said, "Lin General, please take a look. This sword was originally a high-grade artifact embryo. I have already engraved it into a middle-grade heavenly book." As he spoke, the long sword was unsheathed, and there was a faint golden light flowing on the blade. It was indeed an earthly book. Looking at Zhu Ying's complacent look, Chu Yao could not help but laugh. "Young Master Zhu, please put away your weapon. You should know that Lin General is also a heavenly book expert, and he can already engrave low-grade heavenly book." Oh. Zhu Ying had a look of disbelief. Lin Muyu was not interested in letting him see it and just asked with a smile, "Young Master Zhu Ying has an extraordinary appearance, but I don't know how strong you are. Have you verified your strength in the Holy Temple?" "Yes." Zhu Ying nodded and said, "I have just verified it in the Holy Temple 3 days ago, and my cultivation base is at the first level of the heavenly realm at level 62. As he spoke, Zhu Ying suddenly raised his palm, and suddenly a great fighting spirit enshrouded it and said, "Lin General, do you need any other proof?" "There's no need." Lin Muyu smiled happily. "It's not easy to have such a cultivation base at such a young age. How old are you, young Master Zhu Ying?" "I'm 28 years old this year." "Oh, it's really the time when you're young and vigorous." Lin Muyu laughed, thinking that she was actually 35 years old. Although she did not look old, her mind was as still as a cold pool, and she could no longer show off like Zhu Ying. She could not help but sigh in her heart. Time really made people grow old, and she did not know if it was a good thing. Zhu Ying cupped his fists and said with a smile, "I know that Lin General is a god state strong, and his strength is unfathomable. If I can get some advice from Lin General, it will be my life's blessing." "Advice?" Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled. "Forget it, I really don't know what I can give you. You practice hard and you will definitely become a great person in the future." Zhu Ying was stunned. "Why?" Chu Yao was a little displeased and said, "You is a god king and you are just a heavenly master. He doesn't know how to teach you at all, and what he knows is impossible for you to understand with your current cultivation base. Do you understand?" Zhu Ying was stunned. Zhu Tong hurriedly said, "I see, thank you, Great Deacon Chu Yao, for your advice. Also, Lin General, please stay in my house tonight, and I will hold a banquet to entertain you. It's rare for Lin General to come, and your presence brings light to my humble dwelling." "No need, thank you, Lord Zhu Tong, for your kindness." Lin Muyu looked straight at Zhu Ying and said, "I actually came here today for one thing. Young Master Zhu Ying, you should know Jin Xiaotang of the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce, right?" "Yes, I do. Although Jin Xiaotang is not related to me by blood, I have always treated her as my younger sister. What do you think of her, young Master Zhu Ying? Miss Xiaotang is smart and virtuous, and she is also the owner of the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce. She has an endless stream of suitors, so she is naturally one of the top beauties in Lanyan City. But why does Lin General ask this?" Lin Muyu smiled brightly. It's nothing, Xiaotang likes you, so I came to ask. If young master also likes Xiaotang, why don't we get married and I will personally propose marriage? What do you think? Zhu Tong was overjoyed. Really, really? Hurry up and kneel down to express your gratitude. Our Zhu family is really blessed. Zhu Ying hurriedly knelt down. Thank you, Lin General, for the marriage. I admire Miss Xiaotang very much. This is not a matter of a day or two. That's good, but I have a condition. What condition? Zhu Ying, you must withdraw from the Congress, and you must not mix with the people of the Congress. Otherwise I cannot entrust Xiaotang to you. What? Zhu Ying was stunned. Lin Muyu said lightly, I don't want to fight with you in the future. If so, I will feel guilty to Xiaotang. Zhu Tong hurriedly said, Please rest assured, Lin General, my son will submit a letter of withdrawal from the Chamber of Commerce tomorrow. Please rest assured, Lin General. Zhu Tong, the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, was still the one who understood the current situation. Although the Congress was in the limelight for the time being, an official of his rank was well aware that the future of the empire was still in the hands of Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Tang Xiaoxi. As for the others, they were just foils. No matter how glorious the Congress was, it was destined to fall one day. Chapter 943. 3 days later, Zhu Ming and Jin Xiaotang got married. Most of the officials in the imperial court went to congratulate them, including Chief Qin Lian, Minister of War Wei Chou, Feng Jixing, Zhuang Yan and others. Lin Muyu personally presided over the wedding. This was the first time in her life, and the one she married was Jin Xiaotang, whom she regarded as her younger sister. The marriage customs in Great Qin were different from those in modern times. There was no red carpet or church ceremony, only traditional marriage customs. Jin Xiaotang, who was dressed up as a bride, looked extremely beautiful. Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi were jealous. Which woman didn't want to marry their beloved one day? Tang Xiaoxi looked up and saw that her beloved was presiding over the wedding. She was so heartless that she was grinning from ear to ear. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but smile. Perhaps this was life, the life she had always yearned for. The ceremony is done. Lin Muyu waved her hand and walked up to Jin Xiaotang. She grabbed her little hand and stuffed a piece of imperial edict into her hand. Here, this is a gift from me to you, she said. Ah, Jin Xiaotang was stunned. She opened it and saw that it was an imperial edict about Zhu Ming's promotion to the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of War. Since Lin Muyu asked him to withdraw from the parliament, there must be other compensations. However, the Zhu family didn't expect that the compensation would be so generous. The Assistant Minister of the Ministry of War was much more important than Zhu Tong's position as the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Revenue. After all, military power was the way of the king. Zhu Ming looked at Lin Muyu excitedly and said, Lin General, why are you not willing to serve the nation? I am willing. Zhu Ming knelt on one knee. I will risk my life for you. Ah, that's good. Treat Xiaotang well in the future. If you betray her. Lin Muyu looked at Zhu Tong and the others with a smile and said, I will exterminate your entire family. Chu Yao curled her lips. Hey, don't say such things on such an occasion. Zhu Tong and the rest broke out in cold sweat. Everyone knew that Lin Muyu's words were absolutely not a joke. Lin Muyu then looked at Jin Xiaotang and said, Xiaotang, from now on you're someone else's daughter-in-law. Remember to be filial to your elders and don't throw a tantrum. If you've suffered any grievances, endure it if you can. If you can't, come to me and complain, understand? Jin Xiaotang cupped her hands and said, Thank you, older brother. However, older brother can rest assured. Although Xiaotang will be staying in the Assistant Minister's residence in the future, I will be working for the Zine Flower Merchant Guild during the day. Xiaotang knows this very well. Home belongs to home and the Zine Flower Merchant Guild belongs to the Zine Flower Merchant Guild. Then I'm relieved. Lin Muyu said happily. She was really relieved. If Jin Xiaotang didn't know what to do, the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce would become her dowry. In that case, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin would suffer a great loss, and the biggest winner would be Zhu Ming. In fact, from a practical point of view, Lin Muyu hoped that Jin Xiaotang would never marry and run the Chamber of Commerce well. But from a moral point of view, Lin Muyu hoped that Jin Xiaotang could have a husband, so that she wouldn't have to wander alone in Jianghu when her family was so big, which was unfair to her. The guests took their seats and a group of officials congratulated Lin Muyu one after another. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was drinking cup after cup of wine. Marrying his younger sister was not a happy event in life. As her brother, he always felt that it was best for his younger sister to stay by his side. That way he could always protect her. Once she got married, he would not be able to control many things anymore. Unfortunately, Jin Xiaotang already had someone she liked, so Lin Muyu could not always tie her down. On this night, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were both drunk, dead drunk. Late at night, Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi both returned, leaving only Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Qin Yan. The war horses were handed to the guards and the guards dispersed. The three people walked on the quiet heaven-span street. The three kings who once ruled the world were now like three drunkards in dire straits, with nowhere else to rely on. Let's go outside the city and find a mountain top to blast it. How about it? Feng Jixing suggested. This suggestion of his was too violent, but Lin Muyu and Qin Yan each had a belly full of anger. They nodded together and said, "Good idea, let's go now." Go. 3 streams of light flew past and the 3 of them soared into the sky, heading straight for the south of the city. The nearest mountain top was a mountain 10 miles south of the city. There was no one living there and the nearest hunters were several miles away. Flattening the mountain top would not harm the innocent. Lin Muyu landed on the grass at the foot of the mountain. She looked at the starlight with her drunken eyes and said with a smile, "Just like that? Or blast once and say a word. That's more satisfying?" Feng Jixing laughed and said, "This suggestion isn't bad either. Blast once and scold once." "Who's first?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing said, "I'll do it." "Alright." Feng Jixing raised his 2 sabers and his figure rose up majestically. The purple electric raging flame wolf martial soul came out of his body, and divine power circulated. A mighty dimensional storm blasted towards the mountain top. With a loud bang, the mountain peak that was close to 10 meters tall instantly turned into dust. At the same time, Feng Jixing roared angrily, "Congress, this bunch of bastards, go and die." Lin Muyu laughed loudly, I'll do it, I'll do it." He did not use the Xianyuan sword. He waved his fists and struck the mountain range with one glorious chaos. With a bang, the earth quaked and the mountain swayed. The mountain rapidly cracked open, and at the same time the suffocating feeling in his chest seemed to lessen significantly. He said loudly, "Zhuang Yan, this bastard, I really want to blast his head into smithereens like this mountain." He rapidly landed on the ground and patted Qin Yan's shoulder. "Ah Yan, it's your turn." Qin Yan pulled out his sword and flew up. The dragon scale armor martial soul emitted a resplendent light that lingered around his body, and he slashed his sword down towards the mountain top. His divine power was vast and mighty, and it almost sliced off the entire mountain top. During this period of time, Qin Yan was the most depressed, and his resentment was also the heaviest. What he cursed out wasn't a single sentence but a series of words. "I don't know why father wants to be the Congress chief. He clearly knows that the Congress is only going against His Highness, yet he still wants to be the chief. I, Qin Yan, admit that my ability is inferior to my 2 elder brothers, but I'm also not willing to be a sycophant. The way everyone looks at me is different now. I, this divine hall's grand deacon, is simply like a joke." Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing raised their heads to look at Qin Yan, who was slowly descending, and said, "Ah Yan, we have never blamed you. Everyone had no choice. You don't have to blame yourself like this." Qin Yan knelt on the ground in pain and tears flowed out of his eyes. "I almost don't want to see royal father again. I don't know why such a thing happened. To live in such pain, I would rather die in battle under the iron hooves of the Tianji army in Songnan province. That would be better." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, "The Qin family is getting fewer and fewer. You have to live on strongly. Xiao Yin only has you as his cousin. If you also die, wouldn't Xiao Yin be very lonely in this world?" Qin Yan lowered his head and said, "Big brother, am I really important to everyone?" "Important, very important." Feng Jixing, on the other hand, said, "Ah Yan, you are now the Divine Temple's Grand Deacon, and you are in charge of all the warriors in the world. You and I are all looking forward to you being able to send an endless stream of talents to our Forbidden Army and Longdan Army camp. You must not disappoint us." You won't." Qin Yan raised his head and pulled out his sword again. A few streaks of sword chi shot into the mountain. Lin Muyu immediately flew to the other side and pulled out the Xianyuan sword. She fiercely hacked at the mountain again and again. In addition to Feng Jixing's furious slashes with his dual blades, in the blink of an eye, This not-so-small mountain range was about to become a pile of rubble. This kind of work efficiency was simply shameful to any quarry team. When the mountain was turned into a pile of rubble, the three drunkards were also tired. They laid on the grass facing the sky and slept soundly. Divine power rippled slightly, and they were not afraid of wild beasts coming to take them away. The late autumn dew fell continuously. She only woke up the next morning. Lin Muyu brushed away the leaves that had fallen on her face and rubbed her eyes. Her head was a little heavy. She had drunk too much yesterday. She kicked Feng Jixing's leg and shook Qin Yan's arm, saying, "Big brother Feng, Yan, wake up. Today, there seems to be morning court." Feng Jixing hugged the scarlet phoenix blade and curled up his body. He turned to the side and said, "Don't disturb me. Let me sleep a little longer." "Don't sleep." Lin Muyu sat up, stretched her arms and said, "The people in the Congress are planning all kinds of things to weaken Xiao Yin's authority. Although Xiao Yin has forbidden the people of the Congress from attending morning court, Chief Qin Lian will still go. Once he brings some decree from the Congress, I'm afraid that Xiao Yin won't be able to handle it alone. We must go." "But I haven't washed up yet. How can I attend morning court?" Feng Jixing said. "I remember there's a small stream not far away. Let's go and wash our faces. Isn't there a stall selling wontons opposite the Divine Palace in the imperial capital? Let's wash our faces, eat something and then go to the morning court. We should be able to make it in time." "All right, this is too casual," Qin Yan grinned, "but it looks very interesting." The three of them came to the small stream and washed up in the clear stream. Then they flew into Longyan City. Under the gazes of a group of commoners who looked as though they had seen ghosts, they descended from the sky. They sat down casually and each of them ate 3 bowls of wontons. Then they shattered the void and went straight to Zetian Palace. When the three of them stepped into Zetian Palace, they had just made it in time when Shangguan Jingyue rang the bell. With a few quick steps, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Qin Yan arrived at the front of the crowd of officials. Qin Yin sat on the throne in a dignified manner, but she couldn't help sniggering. "Big brother you, oh no, Lin General, why did you come in such a hurry?" Lin Muyu said, "I didn't return last night." Qin Yin's delicate brows knitted slightly and she said, "Where is the Imperial Capital City Patrol officer? Your subject is here. Do you think it's feasible to draft an imperial edict and ban all entertainers, restaurants and so on within the Imperial Capital's boundaries?" Qin Yin was jealous. This was terrible. How many straightforward youths like Zhang Wei would be implicated? Feng Jixing nodded and he said with a low voice, "You look at how cute Her Highness Yin is when she's jealous." Lin Muyu was expressionless. "You still say that? It's all your fault." He raised his head and said respectfully, "Your Highness, we didn't go to drink with prostitutes. Instead we got drunk in the jungle outside the city and slept outside for a night." Qin Yin's pair of delicate eyes with a faint flame swept around. After confirming she said, "That's good." Shangguan Jingyue covered her mouth and laughed, then announced, "If there's anything, please report it to the Emperor." Qin Ao immediately stepped forward, holding a jade scepter in his hand and said, "There are bandits causing trouble in the dragon-seeking forests Dragon Rocky Mountain. The National Army requests to go and eliminate them. I hope your Highness will approve." "The National Army, were they trying to train their soldiers?" Qin Yin squinted her beautiful eyes and asked Lin Muyu and Lin Muyu nodded. Permission granted." Lin Muyu stood quietly beside Qin Ao. He wanted to see what the National Army was trying to do. Chapter 944. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The demon spirit stone in his palm continued to spin rapidly, and finally turned into strands of spiritual energy that seeped into his body. Lin Muyu didn't know how many Tier 4 demon spirit stones he had refined. The 100% absorption rate was very beneficial to him, and the abundant spiritual energy in his body made him feel exceptionally comfortable. He couldn't help but open his mouth and let out a breath. The power in his body seemed to have broken through some kind of limit. Hua! The barrier in his dantian was instantly broken. An extremely warm stream of air was produced in his body and flowed through every blood vessel. Finally, he broke through to the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. Lin Muyu suddenly felt as if his soul had suddenly opened up. Scenes of the divine world appeared in front of him. It was as if he was there in person. He couldn't help but feel a little excited. These were all illusions of stepping into the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. The warm stream in his body became more and more quiet, as if it had already taken root in his body. Congratulations, big brother, you have broken through to the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. At the side, Qin Yin, who stayed up all night to protect Lin Muyu, couldn't help but feel happy. Tang Xiaoxi also smiled happily and said, "Quick, tell me, did you comprehend any ability?" "I think so, but I also don't." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Why do you sound so mysterious? Do you have it or not?" Tang Xiaoxi snuggled up to Qin Yin and asked, "Xiao Yin, you are also at the 50th Grotto Heaven stage. Did you comprehend any ability when you broke through to the 50th Grotto Heaven stage?" "No." Qin Yin shook her head and said, "It is said that the 50th Grotto Heaven stage is the most difficult to comprehend ability. Only 3 to 5 out of 10,000 gods are lucky enough to obtain an ability called healing. This ability can heal the body of a god and restore a large amount of god power in an extremely short period of time. As far as I know, there are not many people who have this ability. Even Sister Haiyan and Seraph Eva don't seem to have this ability. Do you feel the different power in your body?" "Seems so." Lin Muyu opened her palm and activated her divine power. Instantly, a milky white glow appeared, making Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Is this the power of healing?" Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes widened as she reached out and gently held Lin Muyu's hand. Instantly, a gentle and calm energy seeped into her body. She felt a numbing sensation, and the meridians and bones that were damaged due to the demon god transformation were actually slowly being healed. Instantly, Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled and Lin Muyu was also stunned. Qin Yin seemed to have understood something as well. She murmured, "It can't be. Big brother, you really has the help of God and has comprehended the cure?" Lin Muyu nodded and said, "It seems so. Xiaoxi, how do you feel now?" Tang Xiaoxi held Lin Muyu's hand tightly and closed her eyes. In a gentle voice she said, "What a warm power. It seems to be healing the internal injuries caused by the demon god transformation. Wonderful, wonderful. These internal injuries have troubled me for a long time. I thought they would accompany me for the rest of my life." In fact, Lin Muyu could also feel the internal injuries in Tang Xiaoxi's body. Many parts of her bones were already twisted and dislocated. The damage caused by the demon god transformation was simply too great. However, in order to resist a strong enemy, she still transformed without hesitation. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel distressed. She said, "Xiaoxi, why didn't you tell us?" Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled. "I forgot. This reason." Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Qin Yin said with concern, Can you completely heal Xiaoxi's internal injuries?" "Maybe I can, but I'm afraid I can't do it in a short period of time. It will take a long time." Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi's comfortable appearance and said, "Xiao Yin, I want to hug Xiaoxi to sleep tonight. We must maintain skin-to-skin contact in order to continue healing her injuries." Tang Xiaoxi immediately blushed and said, "Tui Mu, you're really one-track-minded. How could you say something like that to Xiao Yin?" Qin Yin stood there in a daze, not knowing what to say. This time Lin Muyu learned to be smart. She pulled Qin Yin's little hand and said, "There's a bedroom in the southwest side hall of Zetian Palace. The bed in there is very big, enough for 3 people. It's late autumn now and the nights are very cold. Why don't we sleep there? We can sleep together and we can also heal Xiaoxi's internal injuries. What do you think, Xiao Yin?" Qin Yin's face turned red. I'm afraid, what if someone sees us? We can just break through the void and go there, stupid." "Oh." Qin Yin smiled slightly. "Alright then, I'm fine with it. What about Xiaoxi?" Tang Xiaoxi put on a helpless look. "I'm injured anyway. I'm only sleeping with the 2 of you to heal my injuries. As for the 2 of you, do as you see fit. Don't be too loud." "What are you thinking, stupid girl?" Qin Yin chuckled. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled and said, "Then let's hurry up and go. It's already midnight." 3 rays of light flashed by. In the next moment, 3 people appeared in the southwest side hall. The purple light in the bedroom attracted the attention of those outside. A familiar voice sounded, "Who's there?" It was the Tiger Guard commander of the Imperial Guards. Qin Yin regained her dignified voice and said, "It's me. I'll be resting here tonight. Commander Su, bring some men to guard the gate of the side hall. There's no need to leave anyone nearby." Yes, Your Highness. I'll do it immediately. Amidst the sound of footsteps, a few imperial guards left with the palace maids. Qin Yin heaved a sigh of relief and glared at the other two. See, I almost died because of you, Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile, but it seems that you are still quite calm. Our Xiaoyin is indeed fearless in the face of danger. This kind of ability to adapt to changing circumstances is worthy of Her Royal Highness. You're still talking. Qin Yin pouted. Hurry up and get on the bed to treat your injuries. The moment she said that, Qin Yin's face turned red. She had a feeling that something was wrong. Tang Xiaoxi's face was also red. Even though it was a blind spot, it was really sleeping with the Empress. How could she not be embarrassed? In fact, Lin Muyu's heart was also beating fast. Recuperation, what a righteous excuse, but why did she feel a strange excitement and anticipation in her heart? Forget it, it's human nature. Even though I'm a god with supreme godhead, I'm still a human. I have all the emotions of a human. Let nature take its course. The three of them groped their way to the bed. Sure enough, it was a big bed that could fit 5 to 6 people. Moreover, the quilt was also of a larger size. The imperial family was indeed different. However, they soon faced a new problem. It was late autumn and the night was slightly chilly. Tang Xiaoxi blinked her eyes and asked a question that everyone was concerned about. Should I take off my clothes? Lin Muyu's heart tightened and she begged, of course. Qin Yin pulled a long face. What do you think? Lin Muyu hemmed and hawed. Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. It's better to take it off. It's better to wear something that's close to the body. Look, Mu is still wearing the commander's soft armor. Do you think this is a war? Lin Muyu was speechless. Thus, the three of them sat on 3 sides of the bed with their backs facing each other and took off their clothes. When Lin Muyu turned around, she saw that both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were only wearing a piece of silk clothing that outlined their exquisite figures. It was a temptation that could take one's life. That. Qin Yin sat on the edge of the bed shyly. She found it difficult to even move her body. Tang Xiaoxi was also sitting on the other side of the bed with her head lowered and her back to the two of them. Lin Muyu felt like she was suffocating. Her heart was pounding and she flew up to the center of the bed. She lifted the quilt and said, why don't the two of you close your eyes? And Tang Xiaoxi nodded. Qin Yin's eyes were closed to begin with. Lin Muyu stretched out his left hand and held Tang Xiaoxi's hand, pulling her into his arms. He then stretched out his right hand and wrapped it around Qin Yin's shoulder, pulling her into his other arms. He then said, all right, you can pull up the quilt. The 2 beauties were so embarrassed that their faces were red. Their bodies were burning hot in Lin Muyu's arms. Needless to say, this kind of feeling was something that even the gods wouldn't exchange for. The healing power naturally flowed through his left arm and seeped into Tang Xiaoxi's body. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but let out a comfortable moan. Her delicate body hugged Lin Muyu tightly. A pair of proud peaks pressed tightly against Lin Muyu's left chest, making his heart almost jump out. Xiaoxi, after all these years she really continued to grow. On the other side, Lin Muyu hugged his real girlfriend tightly. Qin Yin's delicate body was burning hot. She buried her face between Lin Muyu's neck and was so shy that she didn't dare to raise her head. When her pair of peaks pressed against Lin Muyu's right chest, Lin Muyu suddenly couldn't hold on any longer. This feeling was too fatal, as if she was going to die. Xiaoyin. He suddenly called out. And Qin Yin's voice was gentle. Touch my nose. Oh. Qin Yin was also a little confused. She gently touched his nose and said, what's wrong? Is it a wet feeling? And then, am I having a nosebleed? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi laughed at the same time and hugged him tightly. If it was a nosebleed, then it was a nosebleed. Lin Muyu was a god. He definitely wouldn't die because of a nosebleed. After a while, Tang Xiaoxi fell asleep in a coma while healing. Qin Yin and Lin Muyu were too nervous to sleep, so Lin Muyu turned her face to Qin Yin and called out softly, Xiaoyin. Qin Yin responded and naturally raised her beautiful face to kiss Lin Muyu. The soft and fragrant tongue made Lin Muyu feel like she was immersed in the land of tenderness. Qin Yin's body became hotter and hotter. She slowly twisted as if she wanted to melt into the other's body. After kissing for a long time, Qin Yin was panting and blushing. She whispered, I can't take it anymore. I want to rest. And Lin Muyu smiled slightly. At this moment she was extremely happy. She had waited bitterly for 7 years for love, and it finally came to fruition. But just as he turned his face he saw Tang Xiaoxi's starry eyes looking at him. She whispered in his ear, "I want it too." Chapter 945. Dragon Rocky Mountain was once the birthplace of the Longdan army camp, but after many years, it had fallen into disrepair. The houses had collapsed and the civilians who gathered there had dispersed. The entire mountain had become an abandoned mountain. However, in recent months, it had been occupied by a group of mountain bandits, who had resumed their business without any capital. However, this business did not last long and they were soon targeted by the National Army. In the middle of the night, the densely packed National Army appeared at the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain, their banners fluttering in the wind. However, the soldiers' uniforms were not neat. The national treasury was empty, and there was not enough cloth and armor to equip the National Army, which was claimed to have 500,000 soldiers. Most of the soldiers were still wearing the clothes that they had when they came from various provinces. Many of them were even dressed like hunters and farmers. Their equipment was not very good either. Rusty iron swords, cracked halberds and so on could be seen everywhere. The National Army needed to be re-equipped. This was an urgent matter, and it was also the top priority for Zhou Xian, the National Army's commander. Under the starlight, Zhou Xian, dressed in a military uniform, looked at the lights on the mountain from afar and said, "How many people are there in this group of mountain bandits?" Deputy Commander Su Changing replied, "About 500 in total." They actually want nearly 100,000 of us to surround Dragon Rocky Mountain with just 500 people. That's giving them too much face. Zhuang Yan sneered. It's said that this Dragon Rocky Mountain is the place where the Longdan army camp started. After we kill these 500 mountain bandits, burn down Dragon Rocky Mountain for me. Consider it a small warning to Lin Muyu. Su Changjing smiled faintly. "Commander, I think it's fine as long as we do what we want to do. As for burning Dragon Rocky Mountain, it's not necessary. After all, we can't offend people like Wei Chou and Situ Senator if they're in a good mood one day and want to return to Dragon Rocky Mountain. It wouldn't be good for us to burn down their nest." Zhuang Yan said faintly, "Don't talk so much nonsense. Attack the mountain immediately. We must take down Dragon Rocky Mountain before dawn. In addition, are our firearms ready?" "They're already here at the foot of the mountain. The merchants left after leaving the goods and we've already given them the gold notes. Currently, the firearms are under the control of Deputy Commander Lu Xiu." "That's great. Do you have the quantity?" "Yes." Su Changjing nodded. "A total of 5 heavy magic crystal cannons and 15 light magic crystal cannons. In addition, there are 100 magic crystal crossbows, 120 heavy magic crystal cannons, and 280 light magic crystal cannons. Everything is accounted for." Zhuang Yan narrowed his eyes and laughed heartily. "Good. Bring out these magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows as soon as the sun rises. Just say that they were taken from the bandits' lair at Dragon Rocky Mountain. Lin Muyu won't let the weapons department forge heavy cannons for us. I'd like to see what he can do this time. These are the spoils of war that our Imperial Army handed over. He wouldn't interfere, would he?" Su Changjing grinned and said, "Yes, I understand. Remember, spend a lot of money to buy more equipment from those illegal merchants. Since the Imperium is unwilling to equip the Imperial Army, we'll equip them ourselves. When the Imperial Army is strong, I'd like to see how Lin Muyu the Marshal can keep us in check. And Commander is wise, huh?" Before dawn, the Imperial Army had collected a total of 20 magic crystal cannons. They played the Song of Victory and returned to Lanyan City while beating drums and gongs. It wasn't until dusk the next day when they finally returned to Lanyan City with the heavy magic crystal cannons. Almost all the soldiers of the Imperial Army were beaming with joy, even though they were wearing thin clothes and were shivering in the cold. In the late autumn, the grass was fluttering in the wild and the cool breeze was blowing. The wheels of the magic crystal cannons left deep grooves on the official road, which made the convoy even slower. Although Lanyan City was just ahead, they probably couldn't enter the city before dark. According to Zhuang Yan's military order, 5 of the 20 magic crystal cannons were to be transported into the city and set up in the National Palace as defensive equipment. Tuck tuck tuck. In the distance the sound of hoofs could be heard. A neat row of soldiers came from the direction of the capital, carrying the flag of the Longdan army camp. The person at the front was Deputy Commander Wei Chou, who was also the Minister of War and a prominent figure in the capital. Wei Chou led nearly 3,000 cavalrymen and galloped toward the Imperial Army. They stopped about 100 meters away from the Imperial Army. "It's Wei Chou," Su Changjing said with a frown. Zhou Xian held the horsewhip and urged his horse forward. He said, "So it's Lord Wei Chou. May I know why Lord Wei Chou has led so many people here?" Wei Chou smiled slightly and said in a refined and courteous manner, "Commander Zhou Xian, I received a report from the Ministry of War's Minister of War that the Imperial Army illegally obtained 20 magic crystal cannons and 100 magic crystal crossbows." As he spoke, he looked at the pitch-black cannon barrels behind Zhou Xian and said with a smile, "It seems to be true." Zhou Xian said, "Lord Wei Chou might not know this, but the Imperial Army was ordered by Her Highness to encircle and annihilate the strongmen at Dragon Rocky Mountain. These magic crystal cannons were obtained from the mountain. In order to annihilate the strongmen, the Imperial Army lost hundreds of brothers. I think it's reasonable for these magic crystal cannons to be used as military equipment for the Imperial Army, right?" Wei Chou smiled leisurely and said, "If it's weapons and armor, I can turn a blind eye to it. The spoils of war obtained by the Imperial Army belong to the Imperial Army. However, the Ministry of War has a clear rule that magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows are considered firearms and must be managed in a unified manner. All firearms that appear within the borders of the Empire will be managed and distributed by the Ministry of War. I believe you have seen Lin General's order. The Imperial Army is a mix of good and bad people, and for the time being no firearms will be distributed. I hope that Lord Zhou Xian can hand over these magic crystal cannons to the National Treasury. This is also Her Highness's intention." "What? Her Highness's intention?" Zhou Xian was stunned. Wei Chou raised his hand, held up a golden token and said with a smile, "There are a total of 3 golden tokens from the Empress. I believe you have seen them before. Seeing the golden token is equivalent to seeing Her Highness." Zhou Xian, Su Changjing and the rest knelt down on one knee. Wei Chou smiled faintly and said, "Men, receive the magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows from our brothers in the Imperial Army." "Wei Chou," Zhou Xian bellowed, raised his head and said, "Don't go too far. The Imperial Army is the Imperial Army. How dare you be so disrespectful? Men, protect the magic crystal cannons. Whoever dares to touch the magic crystal cannons, I will make him regret being born." "Is that so?" Wei Chou's gaze was ice-cold as he said, "Longdan Army Camp, get ready for battle." The 3,000 cavalrymen behind him spread out and formed a circular battle formation. Every soldier held up a magic crystal crossbow, and a total of 3,000 magic crystal crossbows were pointed straight at the Imperial Army. This wasn't something a mere 20 magic crystal cannons could compare to. Furthermore, the distance between the two sides was too close, and the magic crystal cannons were basically useless. Wei Chou was a smart man. He naturally had a card up his sleeve when he approached the Imperial Army from the very beginning. "Commander Zhou Xian, why don't I do some calculations for you?" Wei Chou smiled and said, "The explosion radius of the magic crystal crossbow is about 10 meters. If 3,000 magic crystal crossbows are fired at close range, the 5,000 soldiers behind you will be instantly vaporized. You won't even have the chance to pull the bowstring of the magic crystal cannons. Once Commander Zhou Xian is killed by the magic crystal crossbows, I will immediately go to Zetian Palace Hall and tell Her Highness that the Imperial Army didn't obey the golden token and even tried to kill me. Zhou Xian deserved his death and can't blame anyone else. Do you think your death is worth anything? Moreover, I also have a secret weapon." As he spoke, Wei Chou blew a whistle. Suddenly, the sky was filled with dragon roars, and 6 huge black figures appeared in the sky. They were the Dragon Knights led by Situ Sin and Situ Shui. During the battle in Songnan province, they had killed dozens of Dragon Knights and seized some giant dragons. The Longdan army camp already had 6 Dragon Knights. Wei Chou smiled and said, "The Dragon Imperial Battle Spiral can defend against magic crystal attacks. As long as I give the order, 3,000 magic crystal crossbows will shoot all of you at the same time, and you won't be able to cause any harm to the Longdan army camp. I advise you not to be stubborn. This is like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Do you understand?" Zhou Xian trembled with anger, but Wei Chou was right. In the face of absolute power, the national army would not be able to withstand a single blow. Not to mention that the Longdan army camp had been through hundreds of battles. Most of the soldiers in the national army had not experienced war at all. Even 10 of them might not be able to defeat one soldier of the Longdan army camp. This was a fact. Zhou Xian was a little dejected. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it, forget it. Let the Minister of War take these magic crystal cannons away." As he spoke, Zhou Xian glanced at Wei Chou and said, "However, Sir Wei Chou, the national army has made great contributions in the battle and seized so many magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows. Shouldn't the Ministry of War's armory give some more armaments to the national army? Look at the group of soldiers behind me. They are the regular army of the empire, but they don't even have a set of military uniform." Wei Chou's eyes turned red. "Yes, I know the hardships of my brothers. In that case, each magic crystal cannon can be exchanged for 100 sets of military uniforms. When we return to Lanyan City, the armory will allocate 2,000 sets of military uniforms and 2,000 long swords to the national army." Zhou Yan's face turned green. "Sir Wei Chou, you can't be sending off beggars with so many armaments, right?" Wei Chou said earnestly, "The empire has been at war for a long time, and the national treasury is almost empty. The wealth that the Radiant King has accumulated for so many years has almost been wiped out by us unfilial descendants in 10 years. These 2,000 sets of military uniforms were obtained with great difficulty. Even the Empress has taken down the curtains of Zhou Palace and dyed them into military uniforms. Her Highness is so diligent and thrifty. Shouldn't Sir Zhuang Yan, as the commander of the national army, set an example by example?" Zhuang Yan's heart was filled with 10,000 grass mud horses. He was speechless from Wei Chou's words. At night in the national palace. Bam! Zhuang Yan slammed his palm heavily on the table, sending the fruits flying. He was furious. "Despicable, this is too despicable. The Ministry of War is too much and doesn't treat the national army as human beings. Wei Chou, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the others are in cahoots with each other. I'm so angry, so angry. Chief, we can't just sit and wait for death." Qin Ran sat there leisurely. Behind him, Qin Yan was standing tall like a statue of a war god. He raised his teacup and took a sip before saying, "Commander Zhuang Yan, don't be impatient. You said that Lin Feng Wei and the others are colluding with each other. Doesn't that mean that you are including Her Highness Qin Yin as well? Sir, please remember that you are also an important member of the Congress. The original intention of establishing the Congress is for the betterment of the Empire. If you even dare to profane the female Empress, then this old man will start to doubt the original intention of establishing the Congress." Zhuang Yan's face turned ashen. "If I misspoke. Please forgive me. It's fine, it's fine. However, the Ministry of War is indeed too much. They don't respect the national army at all." "Yes, that's right." Su Changjing frowned and said, "The biggest problem for the national army now is rations. The Ministry of War only gives us enough rations for 200,000 soldiers every day. Most of us don't even have enough to eat, let alone train. The biggest problem is clothing. Lanyan City is located in the northern Ridge province. Winter is coming fast and it might snow within a month. However, most of our soldiers are only wearing autumn clothes. If we don't have 500,000 sets of winter clothing, how are we going to survive this winter? Without 500,000 sets of winter clothing, how are we going to survive this winter?" Zhuang Yan clenched his fists and said, "Lin Muyu, Wei Chou and Feng Jixing are working together with the Ministry of War and the Ministry of War to cut off our rations and armaments. All they want is for the national army to retreat and for us to leave the capital." Zhou Heng sneered, "They are dreaming. Since we are here, we won't leave so easily. Since we don't have military uniforms, we will think of a way to gather and transport them from our fiefdoms." "I'm afraid it's too late." Qin Lian frowned and said, "Many people will freeze to death. They are all citizens of our great Qin." Qin Yan was speechless. Chapter 946. Zhou Palace, Side Hall, Imperial Army Meeting Room. When Wei Chou talked about confiscating 20 magic crystal cannons from the Imperial Army, everyone burst into laughter. Zhang Wei said casually, as expected of the Minister of War, "You're so confident even when you're robbing. That's great." Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and asked, "Have you found out where these magic crystal cannons came from?" Could it be that other people have also mastered the technology of casting magic crystal cannons other than the Imperial Armament Department? That's not the case. Wei Chou answered. The serial number of the Ministry of War is engraved at the bottom of these magic crystal cannons. If I'm not mistaken, they should have been lost in the Battle of Lingdong Province. Later on, the Tianji Empire's army didn't have time to take them away, so they fell into the hands of the people. As for how the Imperial Army got them, they probably bought them from those merchants or mercenaries. It seems like the Imperial Army is really racking their brains for armaments. Feng Jixing sighed and said, since Zhou Xian could think of this method to get armaments, he must have thought of other ways. They're still being polite to the Ministry of War for now, but once they have enough armaments and have a solid trump card, I'm afraid that won't be the case anymore. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, after all, there are too many people in the Imperial Army. Once they're equipped with magic crystal cannons, it'll be a big deal. Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, you guys have to send people to investigate carefully. Don't let your guard down. Yes, Lin General. The few of them cupped their fists together. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said, Zhuang Yan and Su Changjing are both smart people. They'll definitely fight against the Imperial Army in other ways. As for what they're best at, it should be stirring up the hearts of the people and using the Constitution. From today onwards, everyone in the Imperial Army must learn the Constitution and restrain their words and actions. No one can be caught by the Imperial Army. Do you all understand? Yes. Especially you, Zhang Wei. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, according to the Constitution, there is a military regulation that states that soldiers are not allowed to have more than 3 concubines and are not allowed to play around with women. But you, Zhang Wei, have been in and out of the red light alley. Once you are caught, I'm afraid that no one will be able to protect you. So you have to restrain yourself, understand? Zhang Wei knelt on one knee. Yes, Lin General. I understand. I will restrain myself. After following Feng Jixing for so many years, Zhang Wei's temper had indeed been restrained quite a bit. Based on his temper in the past, he would probably have gone to the Imperial Parliament with a knife and started a massacre. The empire was won by Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Tang Xiaoxi together. Anyone who dared to bully them would be making an enemy out of Zhang Wei. At least that was what he thought. Lin Muyu sat on the commander's seat and flipped through the military order book in front of her. Winter is coming. How are the preparations for our military supplies? Don't worry, Lin General. In the crowd, Ding Shi cupped his hands and said, Her Highness has ordered me to take charge of the military supplies department. I have already made arrangements with the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Revenue. Everyone in the Longdan Army camp, the Imperial Army, and the exiled army will have a set of cotton clothes ready in half a month. The weather will be cold in half a month and they will come in handy. Well, thank you, General Ding Shi. Lin Muyu nodded and said, by the way, what about the provisions for the war horses? Also, have the people we sent to the northern desert to buy war horses returned? Ding Shi said, the provisions have been prepared. There are more than 40 forage yards in Longyan City, enough for our 100,000 war horses to survive the whole winter. In addition, the people who went to the northern desert have come back quickly. Since the death of the northern desert wolf Lord Maodun, more than a dozen tribes have lost their leaders. However, we still have many war horses. Our envoy met with their tribal leaders and reached an agreement. They are willing to sell us 150,000 war horses at a price of about 150 Jinhun coins each. So we need to prepare nearly 30 million Jinhun coins. 30 million. Does the Ministry of Revenue have that? The Ministry of Revenue is a little tight. We need to move some Jinhun coins from other places. Lin Muyu frowned and turned to look at Qin Yin. She said, Xiao Yin, do you have money? Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, Zetian Palace is poor too. Even if we cut back on expenditure, we still don't have that much money. There are about 10 million Jinhun coins in the treasury of the palace. You can have it all. You have to figure out a way to get the rest. Lin Muyu turned to the other side. Xiao Shi, does the Seven Seas Palace have money? No. Tang Xiaoxi blinked. During the last expedition to Tsangnan Province, the treasury of the Seven Seas Province was almost used up. Now there's a shortage of supplies. After Xiao Yin returned, she pardoned the people and reduced taxes. So now all the places are very poor. It seems that the 11 years of war have really made the empire poor. The dignified Longyan city can't even produce tens of millions of Jinhun coins. Yes, it has always been like this. Feng Jixing said, why don't you ask Jin Xiaotang? The Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce should still be rich. These 150,000 war horses are very important to us. The future war will still be the battlefield of the cavalry. The magic crystal cannons are too clumsy and can only be used for defense. The real offensive war will still rely on the cavalry and the rapid charge of the magic crystal crossbows. We can't do without war horses. Yes, I will ask. But it won't be too ideal. The big families in Lanyan City are also very poor now. The business of the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce is not as good as before. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips. The Grand Qin Empire has thousands of years of savings. Where did all the money go? It's all on the steel walls and in the wilderness of the battlefield. Feng Jixing sighed. At this time Ding Shi said, I think there are some people who are very rich. Who? Lin Muyu asked. Take Zhuang Yan as an example. He's the governor of Sunset City, and the Zhuang family he belongs to is a business tycoon in the Swift White province. Ever since the demons were repelled, Sunset City has been living a peaceful life. Even the war between the Darkstone Empire and the Tianji Empire didn't reach Sunset City. Therefore Zhuang Yan is very rich. It can be seen from the fact that he could gather nearly 60,000 troops. Without money and military provisions, who would follow him? Qin Yin's lips curled up slightly. Lord Ding Shi, you mean we should slaughter the big families? Yes. Ding Shi said, since Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the others can establish a parliament with great fanfare to reduce their power, then why should we be polite? We can come up with all sorts of excuses to reduce the properties and fiefs of the feudal vassals. For example, Zhuang Yan is still the governor of Xiang City, but Her Highness the Empress has the power to demote him. Feng Jixing's eyes lit up. General Ding, she means to remove the positions of the feudal vassals in their fiefs? Yes. Ding Shi took a deep breath. Her Highness can select a group of young talents from the imperial capital to take up posts in various places. It's called the Decree of the Emperor, but in fact, it's just to replace the feudal vassals' positions in their fiefs and make them lose their roots. If these feudal vassals don't want to be replaced, they need to hand over a certain amount of property to reject the decree of the emperor. This way they can legitimately confiscate the local financial resources. Good. Lin Muyu clapped her hands and smiled. Lord Ding Shi's plan is not bad. It's feasible. Xiaoyin Xiaoxi, what do you think? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi nodded in unison. I agree. Lin Muyu looked at Shangguan Jingyue and said, then I'll have to ask Lady Attendant Shangguan to draft up the decree of the emperor as soon as possible. Send it directly to the feudal vassals. If they don't show any signs within 7 days, take away their fiefs. Yes, Lin General. Shangguan Jingyue left happily. Lin Muyu rubbed her palms together. This way we have the money to buy war horses. Wei Chou said, Lin General Shenhou Xing Yifan sent a letter from Dongshuang City. He learned that the Celestial Empire of the Celestial Pole continent has passed through the Forest of No Return and has started a war with the Tianji Empire's Zhongqing army. Qin Yu has started a war with Zhongqing. Lin Muyu was stunned and said happily, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. This way the Celestial Pole continent will not be a threat to us for at least half a year. This is great. He was complacent and felt that there was no room for him to sit on the marshal's seat. He then said, oh right, how is the reconstruction of the Empire's navy going? Bailey Tsang cupped his fists. Reporting to the marshal, several large shipyards are short of money, so the construction of the ships is very slow. Currently there are only about 100 ships. Moreover, the navy's recruits still need to be trained, so it is impossible for them to form a fighting force in a short period of time. Money. We still need money. Lin Muyu held her forehead and couldn't help but feel a headache. Are you all right? Feng Jixing asked. I'm fine. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, everyone here is the backbone of the empire. Think of a way to get money. Without money we won't be able to build more ships. Without ships, we won't be able to train our navy. Without the navy, our eastern sea will still be empty. We won't have our own border and can only be attacked. Without warships, we won't be able to gather an army for an expedition. Eastward expedition? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Yes, eastward expedition. Lin Muyu looked at her and said with a smile, Xiaoxi, don't you think we should completely destroy the Celestial Pole continent? I'm afraid this is a little difficult. Ding Shi sighed and said with a smile. I know it's difficult, but we have to prepare in advance. Lin Muyu twirled the pen in her hand. She pondered and said, it's not that I want to be militaristic, but if our Qin Empire doesn't be militaristic, we will definitely be destroyed. Even if I have to let down the future generations I must fight on. Qin Yin was slightly moved and said softly, I will do my best to support you. Tang Xiaoxi nodded. Me too. All the generals were stunned, then they cupped their fists and said, we will definitely follow the marshal. Wherever the soldiers point, we will never retreat. Lin Muyu smiled happily. The people in front of her were the real pillars of the empire. It was this group of people who defeated strong enemies time and time again. The Iha Kingdom, the Demon Race, the Tianji Empire, and the Blackstone Empire. They were the real treasures of the empire. History would always remember their names and their glorious achievements. Chapter 947. What Bullsh *T Order of the Emperor. In a side hall, Zhuang Yan's hand trembled as he held on to the Order of the Emperor. Veins popped up on his face. This is like taking drastic measures. It sounds nice to promote talents, but in the end, it's to weaken the feudal lord's power in our fiefs. This must be Lin Muyu's evil plan. As long as we're stripped of our fiefs, we'll be at their mercy. In your dreams. Lu Xiu's eyelids twitched. I won't hand over Bai Ling City even if I die. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing only know how to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. They've forgotten who rebuilt Bai Ling City all these years. Now that Bai Ling City is prosperous again, they want to get rid of us? Dream on. Su Changjing thought for a while and looked at Qin Kong. He pleaded, Director, you are Her Highness's uncle. Please say something. Her Highness is destroying our roots. Qin Kong looked at Su Changjing and pleaded with Su Changjing. Qin Lian's eyes dimmed. Everyone, isn't the last line of the Order of the Emperor written clearly? If you want to reject the Order of the Emperor, the tax that every feudal lord has to pay is also written clearly. This, Zhuang Yan slammed the Order of the Emperor on the table. The tax that I have to pay is as much as 80 million Jingren coins. Do you really think that my family is a mountain of gold and silver? I don't have that much money. Qin Lian smiled. Sir Zhuang Yan, if I remember correctly, your fiefs in Xiang City are thousands of hectares. It's not an exaggeration to say that you're a marquis. Moreover, the Zhuang family's businesses are almost all over the White Flash Province and Earthstar Province. You're a big merchant in both North and South Ridge Province. The Zhuang family's net worth is at least 200 million Jingren coins. Now that Her Highness needs money, the Empire needs money. As the deacon of the parliament, it's only right for you to bleed. The veins on Zhuang Yan's face bulged. Why should the Zhuang family hand over the hard-earned money? Qin Lian stood up shakily with her cane. I'm tired. I'm going back to rest. Director. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the others all stood up. With the support of Qin Yan, Qin Lian walked to the entrance of the side hall. She slowly turned around to look at the crowd and said, I know that the establishment of the Congress has greatly increased the status and identity of all of you, but in the end, you are still the subjects of the Qin family, the subjects of Her Highness Yin. If the ruler needs money, you should be loyal to the country. This is a transaction, or else, you can forget about Sunset City and Hundred Ridge City. Qin Yin is the empress, and when she wants to take back her power, she will naturally take back your positions. Although I, Qin Lian, am the chief of the Congress and all of you have helped me, I am also Qin Yin's uncle, the younger brother of her father. Watching Qin Kong's figure leave, Zhuang Yan and the rest felt as if a large rock was pressing down on their hearts. Lin Muyu's move of taking drastic measures is seriously too ruthless. Zhuang Yan said furiously. Yeah. Su Changjing frowned. The group of feudal vassals remained silent. No one knew what to say. However, Qin Kong had already spoken. Other than accepting her fate and paying the money, there seemed to be nothing else to say. After a long time, a feudal vassal suddenly laughed. It was Yang Zhong, the former Marquis of Yu, a noble of Songnan Province, and one of the 10 great deacons of the Congress. Although Yang Zhong did not control as many troops as the other 4 feudal vassals, he was strong in terms of scheming and foresight. This was something that the other 4 feudal vassals could not compare to. Marquis of Yu, what are you laughing at? Zhuang Yan asked. Yang Zhong stroked his beard and said, It's really funny to see all of you frowning. Marquis of Yu. Zhuang Yan's voice became much sterner. Yang Zhong said, instead of being at a loss here, why not think of a way to counterattack Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing? Counterattack? Su Changjing was stunned. That's right. How? Yang Zhong's eyes turned cold. He said, Lin Muyu used the token of grace to weaken our power and steal our wealth. In that case, we should use our own methods to cut off Lin Muyu's right-hand man. What do you mean? As far as I know, the siblings Situ Sin and Situ Shui have a mansion in Lanyan City that is as large as 400 mu. Although the front yard is not too big, there are many livestock in the backyard to feed the giant dragons and frost-armored horned dragons. In the constitution that we have just established, the mansion of a deputy commander cannot exceed 20 mu. However, Situ Sin has exceeded it by 20 times, which is enough for him to die 10,000 times. Lord Zhuang Yan, you are one of the framers of the constitution, so you should know the punishment of exceeding 20 times, right? Zhuang Yan shuddered. Behead, that's right. Yang Zhong stroked his beard and said proudly, since the imperial army is the army that defends the constitution, if not now then when? This Situ Sen's mansion is as large as half of Zetian Palace. An officer like him must have received a lot of bribes. Who else should we kill if not him? Zhuang Yan clapped his hands and said with a smile, Great? Great. This is great. Su Changjing squinted his eyes. However, don't forget that Situ Sin is a godly state expert. Although he is only a divine venerable one, he is still a god. How can our imperial army make Situ Sin submit? Lord Su, please rest assured. Yang Zhong said, since we have the means to buy the demonic crystal cannons, we naturally have the means to buy the weapon that can restrain a godly state expert, the demonic heart arrow. The Empire's battlefield is almost 1,000 miles from Winter Frost City to the steel protective wall. There are many demonic heart arrows along the way. I have already ordered my Imperial Guards to equip them with demonic heart arrows. As long as you shoot Situ Sin before he gets on the dragon, he will be nothing but immortal. When do we do it? Zhuang Yan asked. Yang Zhong said, we do it at midnight. We will execute him at dawn. Let Lin Muyu wake up to find the head of the deputy commander of the Longdan army camp hanging on the palace gate of Zetian Palace. Good, very good. Zhuang Yan's eyes were full of ruthlessness. He said, men, gather the imperial army immediately. I want 10,000 cavalrymen, no, 20,000, all of them must be elites. We will do it at midnight. Is Lord Su? Late at night, the Situ residence was brightly lit. Nearly 200 soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were guarding the Situ residence fanned out outside the residence. Each of them held a sharp sword in their hand, preventing the imperial army from taking another step forward. A centurion said coldly, this is the residence of General Situ Senator who dares to make trouble? Zhuang Yan rode his horse forward and stretched out his hand to unroll a piece of paper. He said, Situ Sin expanded his mansion without permission and violated the constitution. The Congress has already issued an arrest warrant. Anyone who dares to disobey will be killed. Come and try if you have the guts. Go. The two sides quickly engaged in a fierce battle. The Imperial Army's heavy shield soldiers surged forward like a tide. However, the 200 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp were like an impenetrable wall. On the other hand, the Imperial Army on the periphery was constantly being slashed by the sharp swords. Damn it! This is a rebellion. Su Changjing shook his arm. The sword in his hand shone brightly. It was a supreme-grade book. Roar. Flames fell from the sky and landed on the 200 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp. Screams were heard. How could the bodies of ordinary people resist the power of the heavenly book? Thousands of Imperial Army soldiers rushed forward and killed the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were burned by the flames. They were unstoppable. However, just before the group of people entered the residence, a golden light suddenly bloomed. It was Situ Sen's attack. Buzz. The sword aura contained divine power. Situ Sen's sword instantly killed dozens of Imperial Army soldiers. His face was filled with anger. He shouted in a low voice, bastards, how dare you use force on the Empire's Longdan army camp? The culprit has appeared. Zhuang Yan waved his hand and said, go. Kill him on the spot if he resists. A group of archers quickly appeared. They aimed at Situ Sin and unleashed a barrage of arrows. However, Situ Sen's movements were simply too fast. His entire body was like a bolt of lightning that was difficult to capture. His long sword swept through the crowd with snowflakes. After sweeping a circle, dozens of Imperial Army soldiers were instantly frozen into ice cubes by the power of his star mantra. Kill, kill, kill. When Cixin saw that a group of his subordinates had been killed, he was extremely enraged. His killing intent had been completely ignited. His blade was imbued with divine power, and he directly pierced into the crowd, charging towards a group of feudal vassals. You despicable animals. I didn't die on the battlefield, but do you think I'll die in the hands of you lowly people? Cixin's long sword let loose a ringing sound, and he quickly unleashed initial starlight into the crowd, blasting a massive crater into the stone ground in front of the manor. 7 or 8 soldiers were instantly torn to shreds by the eruption of energy, but there was still a relentless barrage of arrows flying toward him, only to be repelled by Cixin's suit of battle armor. How many of our Imperial Army soldiers are you trying to kill? One of the feudal lords, Zhou Xian, abruptly gripped his saber tightly as he yelled, "Get out of my way. I'm going to kill him." Zhou Xian was the most powerful being among the feudal lords, but he had overestimated himself. Die. A burst of purple flames appeared on the blade of his sword, and after destroying Zhou Xian's saber, Cixin quickly slashed his sword through the air, instantly vaporizing Zhou Xian's body. Thump thump thump. Several demon heart arrows also instantly pierced through Cixin's suit of battle armor before piercing into his arms. Master Zhou Xian is dead. Master Zhou Xian is dead. All of the Imperial Army soldiers were in a state of panic. Xianxia roared with fury, "How dare you, Cixin? How dare you defy the law and kill a royal guard? Men, kill them." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. All of a sudden several iron nets that were filled with demon heart stones fell from the sky, instantly trapping the severely wounded Cixin within. Several Imperial Army soldiers charged through the nets before striking Cixin's suit of armor with their sabers. This renowned general who had dominated the entire eastern region battlefield let loose a muffled groan as he fainted. Tie him up and bring him back to the Imperial Army. Soldiers, enter the residence and gather evidence of Cixin's corruption. Kill all of those giant dragons and frost armor dragons. Xianxia's expression darkened with rage. Even though they had managed to kill Cixin, the Imperial Army had lost Zhou Xian, and that was a massive humiliation to the Imperial Army. Chapter 948. In one of the many rooms in Zetian Palace, a person sat cross-legged on a futon. Golden miniature elephant wheels slowly rotated around his body. It was as spectacular and magnificent as a planet orbiting a star. These days Lin Muyu had never slacked off in his training. He needed to become stronger, and he needed to become stronger quickly in order to cope with the changes that might occur in the future. Beside him, Tang Xiaoxi leaned against the headboard and dozed off. He seemed to be very tired. Tang Xiaoxi did not have much time to train. She relied more on her innate talent. Perhaps to her, ample rest was much more important than hard training. Qin Yin held a wooden sword in her hand. She was dressed in the long dress of an empress. Under the illumination of the crane lamp, she slowly swung the wooden sword. Although it was just an ordinary wooden sword, an invisible aura surged around the sword. It was as if every strike of the sword had the power to swallow the heaven and earth. This kind of aura was the essence of Xian's 7 strikes. Yihai slowly entered a state of natural sleep. Lin Muyu relaxed his entire body and let the divine power flow through his body. It automatically refined his muscles, bones, and flesh. This training method could also increase the strength of his divine power step by step. The strength of his power was related to the stage of his cultivation. Only when his power reached a certain level could he break through to a new realm. But suddenly Lin Muyu woke up from his training. He frowned and said, "Something bad happened. Cixin's aura has disappeared." "What happened?" Qin Yin was stunned. She closed her eyes and carefully sensed for a while. She said, "Indeed, General Sen's aura has disappeared." Tang Xiaoxi slowly woke up. "What happened?" "I'm afraid that Cixin has met with a mishap. I can no longer capture his aura." Lin Muyu instantly felt a chill down his spine. His forehead was full of sweat. If he did not faint, then he is dead. Raising his hand to grab the Xianyuan sword on the sword rack, Lin Muyu did not even put on his armor. He just casually said to the 2 girls, "I am going to Cixin's mansion to take a look." Do you want to come with me? Yes. Go. 3 rays of light flashed, and in the next moment the figures of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in front of the mansion. Moreover, the flames of war in front of the mansion had not yet been extinguished, and piles of flames were still burning the corpses of the dead. The horizontal board of the Situ mansion had already been smashed, and there were even a few soldiers carrying a huge beast's head out. It was the head of a blue dragon. Lin Muyu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She flew forward and her power rippled out. She said sternly, "What's going on? What happened in the Situ residence? Who killed this blue dragon?" A few of the soldiers recognized Lin Muyu. One of the sergeants immediately knelt on one knee and said, "Greetings, Lin General. This is an order from the chief." General Situ Sin expanded the size of the mansion without permission, which greatly exceeded the restrictions of the constitution. Therefore, the Congress has decided to severely punish Situ Senator. As for this blue dragon, it was Commander Zhou Xian who ordered us to shoot it with white diamond arrows. Lin Muyu gripped the Xianyuan sword tightly. Her anger turned into power and surged out. The stone bricks under her feet cracked and rose. Her eyes seemed to be burning as she roared, "Who do you think you are? How dare you touch my people without permission? Are you looking for death? This blue dragon is our trophy, a bargaining chip for the Empire to fight against a strong enemy in the future. How dare you shoot a giant dragon? What a bunch of idiots. Tell me, where is Situ Sin? What about Situ Shue? Where is she?" The sergeant stammered, "Situ Sin has been escorted to the Congress. He will be executed at dawn. We didn't see Situ Shue. She didn't return to the residence today. She should be living in the camp. Lin General, I didn't lie to you. Please spare my life, Lin General." Lin Muyu looked at the bodies of the elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp on the ground. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. She said, "My soldiers, were they killed by you?" The sergeant trembled. "Yes. It was the commander who ordered us to shoot them. These brothers of the Longdan army camp swore to protect Situ Sin, so they were shot. Zhuang Yan, you bastard." Lin Muyu was furious. With a wave of his palm, the sergeant immediately turned into ashes. He said angrily, "Put down the dragon head. The Situ residence is the territory of the Longdan army camp. All soldiers get out." Yes. A group of soldiers retreated from the Situ residence while trembling. They knew who Lin Muyu was. In the eyes of the soldiers of the Empire, Lin Muyu was a godlike existence. In the eyes of the soldiers, Lin Muyu was the biggest warlord in the Empire. If anyone angered him, it wasn't impossible for him to kill them in public. Moreover, the 2 beautiful girls who came with Lin Muyu seemed very familiar. They were the Empress Qin Yin and the Princess Fugua Tang Xiaoxi. Let's go to the Congress immediately. The most important thing is to save General Situ," Qin Yin said. "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "We will split into 2 groups. I think since the soldiers have caught Situ Sen's mistake, they will definitely not let it go. Even if Xiao Yin and I go, they may not let it go. Since the soldiers are so daring, I will let them know how high the sky is. Xiao Shi, take my commander's seal and go to the Longdan army camp. Order Wei Chou to immediately lead 50,000 cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp into the city and surround the Congress. If Zhuang Yan doesn't hand over Situ Sin today, I will destroy the Congress." Tang Xiaoxi took the seal and said, "Yes, you and Xiao Yin must be careful. Don't make a move unless it's absolutely necessary. There are many soldiers in the army and it is said that they have the Devil's Heart arrow." "Yes, go ahead." After Tang Xiaoxi left, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin flew side by side in the direction of the Congress. The distance between them wasn't too far. It would take an hour to walk, but it would only take about 5 minutes to fly. It was late at night, but the Congress was brightly lit and heavily guarded. Just the periphery of the Congress was guarded by a dense group of 5,000 soldiers. There were even soldiers armed with magic crystal crossbows standing guard on the walls of the Congress. As expected, the soldiers had already made up their minds. Swoosh, swoosh, 2 rays of light descended from the sky. They were Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. They landed in the courtyard of the Congress and landed in front of Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing and the others. Zhuang Yan was stunned. Su Changjing was also stunned. "Greetings. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Lin General." A group of people knelt down one after another. After all, the Empress was supreme. She was the master of everything, and she was even above the newly established constitution. At least that was what was written in the law. The empress had the highest decision-making power, followed by the Congress. Where's Situsen? Lin Muyu looked at Zhuang Yan coldly. Zhuang Yan gritted his teeth and said, I don't know what Lin General is talking about. With a clang, the Xianyuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu pointed the blade at Zhuang Yan's neck and said, I won't ask you a third time. Where's Situsen? Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. He retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground, saying, Your Highness, please understand. As a deacon of the nation and the commander of the nation's army, it is my responsibility to uphold the authority and enforcement of the Constitution. Situsen expanded his mansion without permission and didn't repent even when we went to rectify his mistake. He even killed General Zhou Heng. This person is reckless and presumptuous, and he has the style of a warlord. Our imperial capital's empress is supreme and governs the country. How can we tolerate such a madman? Qin Yin slowly opened her eyes. Even though she had tried her best to reduce the power emitted by the flaming eyes, it still made Zhuang Yan feel as if he was in a hell of fire. He was an unbearable pain. Situsen is the deputy commander of the empire's regular army. According to the constitution, the arrest of such a high-ranking general must first be approved by the Congress and then approved by me. Secondly, to kill Situsen, it must be approved by all the members of the Congress. Zhuang Yan, aren't you being a little too hasty? Everyone thought that Qin Yin was just an empress who was well-versed in martial arts, but they didn't know that she had already memorized the newly established constitution. Zhuang Yan knelt on the ground, dumbfounded and speechless. Qin Yin continued, If you really kill Situsen, then your crime will be private punishment. As long as Situsen is dead, you Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and Lu Xiu will have to pay for Situsen's death with your life. The Congress will continue to implement this as a national policy, but I will never allow you to abuse your power for personal gain. Do you understand? With just a few simple sentences, Zhuang Yan completely gave up on the idea of killing Situsen immediately. It could be said that Qin Yin's words had completely saved Situsen's life. Then where is Situsen? Qin Yin asked faintly. Zhuang Yan said, He is locked up in the backyard of the Congress. But Your Highness, it's true that Situsen expanded his residence without permission. We can spare Situsen's life, but we must hold him accountable. Therefore, we must not release Situsenator. This is the responsibility and mission of the National Army. Bring Situsen here. Lin Muyu said faintly, I am the Empire's marshal. I have the right to see my subordinate and ensure his safety. But this is against the law. Which part of the Constitution states that the marshal cannot see the generals of the National Army? Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. But Zhuang Yan still wanted to dodge. However, out of the blue, Lin Muyu's figure suddenly stepped forward. She raised her hand and slapped Zhuang Yan's cheek. Zhuang Yan's cheek immediately turned blood red. Zhuang Yan even rolled away from the slap and was held up by a group of soldiers. Looking at Zhuang Yan coldly, Lin Muyu said faintly, Zhuang Yan, if you are smart, quickly hand over Situsenator, otherwise, I will crush your bones and scatter your ashes. I want to see Situsen safe and sound right now. Su Changjing hurriedly said, Please calm down, Lin General. Sir Zhuang Yan is after all a deacon of the National Army and a commander of a regular army. Isn't Lin General Lin's slap equivalent to an abuse of justice? Lin Mu smiled. If my slap is an abuse of justice, then is it murder for you to kill hundreds of my brothers in the Longdan army camp? We are just carrying out our official duties. Su Changjing hurriedly explained. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, Don't be in a hurry to explain. I will settle accounts with you for killing my men in the Longdan army camp. None of you will be able to escape. Now get Situsen here. Lu Xiu was furious. Lin General, don't go too far. With that, the group of archers behind Lu Xiu raised their longbows in unison and aimed their white drill arrows at Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. Lin Muyu burst into laughter and said, What a huge joke. The swords of the National Army are actually pointed at the Empress and the Marshal. Are you the guards of the National Army or a group of rebels? Come on, try to shoot as many arrows as you can. This way there will be no more National Army tomorrow. As for you traitors, I will restore the old system of the Empire. I will put your heads on pikes and place them on the city walls. I will send people to kill your wives and children, dig up your ancestral graves and wipe out your entire clan. Come on, give me a reason to kill you. Release the arrows. The group of archers was dumbfounded, facing Lin Muyu's monstrous aura. Who would dare to make a move? Chapter 949. Stop. A dignified voice came from the inner hall. The president of the Congress, Qin Yan, had finally arrived with a crutch. His aged face was dignified as he said, "Are you trying to rebel? Put down your bows and arrows. In front of you is the Empress and the Marshal of the Empire. Xianxia, Xianxia, how did you restrain your subordinates?" Xianxia hurriedly raised his hand. "All of you put down your weapons." He glared at Lu Xiu as if blaming him for letting his subordinates assume a fighting stance. This way trouble followed, and it wasn't just ordinary trouble. "Greetings, Chief." The group of Congress soldiers saluted. After all, the highest commander of the Congress army was Chief Qin Yan in name. However, Qin Yan couldn't voice his bitterness because the Congress army was never under his control. "Greetings, Your Highness." "Greetings, Lin General," Qin Shao said. "Uncle, you may dispense with the formalities," Qin Yin said faintly. She had a stomach full of anger but couldn't vent it. Since Qin Yan was here, she had to give him face. Qin Yan held his father's arm and said loudly, "Come, bring General Situ-Sin here." A few Sanctum instructor-level practitioners carried a person over. It was the unconscious Situ senator. His eyes were tightly shut and he was in a daze. No one knew if he had fainted or died. Lin Muyu hurriedly went forward and checked his breath. He was still breathing, but it was very weak. She quickly raised her palm and the healing power quickly surrounded Situ Senior. "Big brother, don't waste your energy." Qin Yan said, "General Sin was shot by a poisonous arrow and his body was poisoned. He won't wake up for a while unless someone knows how to detoxify it." "What poison is it?" Lin Muyu looked at Xianxia and roared, "What poison? Speak." Xianxia stammered, "Emerald Eagle's poison." "Emerald Eagle's poison?" Lin Muyu was drenched in cold sweat. She had heard of this poison before. The emerald eagle was a rare bird, but its beak was highly venomous. The poison seeped directly into the brain and could destroy the nervous system of a person's brain. If it was delayed for too long without treatment, the person would be a cripple even if they woke up. "You guys are so ruthless, using poison on the deputy commander of the empire?" Lin Muyu gnashed her teeth as she glared at Xianxia, Su Changjing and the others. Her eyes were filled with fury, and she could not wait to burn these despicable people into ashes. Xianxia cupped his fists and explained, "Situ-Sin is an immortal state expert, so we have to be careful. Do you have the antidote for the Emerald Eagle's poison?" Reporting to Lin General, "This poison is incurable. There is no antidote at all. We can only rely on the fate of the victim," Su Changjing said. "Fate." Lin Muyu smiled miserably and said one word after another, "Situ-Sin has followed me for 8 years and made great contributions in the past 8 years. If he dies, all of you will be buried with him. None of the 500,000 soldiers will be left behind. They will all be buried with Situ-Sin." Xianxia, Su Changjing, Lin Muyu said coldly, "Yan, go to the spiritual medicine department immediately and ask head deacon Chu Yao to come and diagnose him. She might have the antidote." "No, we'll send Situ-Sin to the spiritual medicine department immediately." "Wait." Xianxia raised his arm and said, "Situ-Sin is still a felon and can't leave the parliament. This is the rule of the constitution. Please don't make things difficult for us, Lin General." "How dare you?" Xianxia closed his eyes and said, "If Lin General wants to kill me, then kill me. I, Xianxia, will die to protect the dignity of the constitution. My death is not to be regretted, but Lin General trampled on the law. This behavior is despicable. In the future the world will understand why I died." Lin Mu smiled. "Xianxia, you're a good dog, but you have such a loyal performance." "Not bad." Qin Yan cupped his fists and said, "Lin General, I think it's better to ask head deacon Chu Yao for help." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. "Yan, go quickly. Go personally." "Yes, big brother." Qin Yan had already shattered the void and left in a flash. However, the atmosphere in the parliament was still tense. After a long time, the rescuers from the spiritual medicine department didn't arrive. Instead, it was the heavy galloping of horses outside the parliament. After a few loud booms, the doors of the parliament were blasted open by magic crystal crossbows. Arrows were shot in from the outside, and the 5,000 soldiers in charge of guarding the perimeter became corpses in the blink of an eye. Amidst the thick smoke, the cavalry from the Longdan army camp led by Wei Chou and Situ Shui charged in. In terms of combat strength, even 10 soldiers from the Longdan army camp wouldn't be a match for one soldier from the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou held a head in his hand, dismounted from his horse and knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Your Highness." "Greetings, Lin General." "Whose head is it?" Lin Muyu asked. "A general. He has already admitted to killing a few of our brothers from the Longdan army camp in the Situ residence," Wei Chou said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Zhou Xian was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He originally thought that the parliament would be relatively safe with so many soldiers guarding it, but he didn't expect that it would collapse at the first blow from the regular army. Lin Muyu asked faintly, "How many people did you bring?" 50,000 cavalry. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "I have already surrounded the parliament. Not even a fly can escape. As long as Lin General gives the order, I will bring people to wipe out all the soldiers in the parliament." The simple clean-up was like a bolt from the blue to the commanders of the imperial army. After all, there were 20,000 imperial army soldiers stationed in the imperial palace. "You are all crazy. You must be crazy," Zhou Xian muttered. Lin Muyu sneered, "No, you are the crazy one. Zhou Xian, do you know what kind of army is the Longdan army camp? This is an army that has existed since year 7731 of the empire calendar. It participated in the war when the Iha nation besieged Lanyan city. The Longdan army camp has been fighting for 11 years. How many people have died and how many times their blood has been changed? If the Longdan army camp didn't exist, the empire would have been annihilated many times. How dare you order the massacre of the soldiers in the Longdan army camp? You are the crazy one who doesn't know who you are." At this moment, Situ Shui dashed forward and pounced on Situ Senator. Her eyes were red and anxious as she said, "Brother. What happened to you? Brother. I haven't been back for a day and you have become like this." "Ah Shui, General Sin has been poisoned," Qinin said. Before she finished speaking, two people suddenly descended from the sky. It was Qin Yan and Chu Yao. Chu Yao was dressed in the elegant white robe of the Great Deacon. She landed beside Situ Sin and quickly diagnosed his pulse. Her brows were slightly furrowed and she didn't say anything. Instead, she took out a set of silver needles from her waist. "Sister Chu Yao, can he still be saved?" Lin Muyu bent down and asked. Chu Yao nodded. "Fortunately, Situ Sen's cultivation is profound. The Emerald Eagle's poison was sealed in his blood vessels with his divine power, but it didn't enter his heart and head. I will use the method of drinking blood and purging the poison with silver needles to save him. You help me guard. During this period of time no one can disturb me. Also tell the people outside to stop fighting. Many people have already died." "Okay." Lin Muyu waved her hand. "Wei Chou, stop fighting. Capture all the murderers who participated in the attack on Situ residence and send them to Dingxi. Let Dingxi punish them according to the military law." "Yes, Lin General." Zhou Xian hurriedly said, "No, the country has its laws. They are only law enforcers. They are definitely not murderers." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You carry out your national law, I will carry out my military law. Without my military order, you attacked the regular army of the empire without permission. I am already being lenient by not banning the designation of the national army." Zhou Xian was startled and didn't say anything else. If the national army was banned, then this operation of the national army was equivalent to losing everything. Detoxification with silver needles was a long process. The silver needles were pierced into the blood vessels, and after a long time, black blood would flow out along the silver needles. Situ Shui carefully wiped at the side, while Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were guarding at the side. This night was too important for the empire. This was the first large-scale conflict between the national army and the Longdan army camp. If it wasn't handled well, it would lead to civil strife. Even if the Longdan army camp won, how could it be considered a victory if they slaughtered 500,000 soldiers of the empire? Lin Muyu was afraid to take action and Zhou Xian and the others were also afraid. This made the situation reach a delicate balance, and no one was willing to break this balance. Until dawn, suddenly Situ Sin whimpered and slowly opened his eyes, but he was too weak to make a sound. He just blinked when he saw Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. This was already his etiquette. Have a good rest. Lin Muyu frowned and said, rebuild the Situ residence into the barracks of the Longdan army camp in the city. It won't be included in the plan of the residence. Buy land and double the size of the city. Accommodate 10,000 soldiers to live and train in the city. If anyone comes to cause trouble, kill them without reporting back. Yes. Wei Chou and Situ Shui showed a trace of gratification. Lin Muyu looked coldly at Zhuang Yan and the others, stood up, stretched her body and said, it's better for the national army to train properly and not make trouble for yourselves. Wei Chou deployed 20,000 soldiers to the Longdan army camp to guard outside the barracks of the national army. Without the deployment order from the Ministry of War, kill any soldiers without the Empress's warrant. Xiaoyin Xiaoxi, let's go back. Okay. Everyone escorted the Empress out, but before she left the residence, a light cavalry from the Ministry of War came from afar, dismounted and knelt on the ground. He said in a low voice, Your Highness Lin General, a man who claims to be the governor of Ba Huang province requests an audience. He says his name is Qianfeng. Qianfeng? Lin Muyu was stunned. Where is he? In Zetian Palace Hall. Okay, we will go immediately. Yes. In Zetian Palace Hall, Qianfeng was dressed in a white robe. Behind him were 4 high-level demon generals, all of whom were at the rank of captaincy. When Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi entered the hall, Qianfeng immediately knelt with his subordinates and said loudly, Qianfeng pays his respects to your highness and Lin General. Lin Muyu laughed heartily. She went forward to support Qianfeng by his arm and said, Marshal, it's been a long time. If you didn't delay the flowing spirit army at the Tongtian Gorge, I'm afraid Lanyan City would have long been in the hands of others. I'm just doing my duty to protect my homeland. Qianfeng touched his nose, looked deeply at Qin Yin and said, Your Highness, it's been a long time. Congratulations on your rebirth and obtaining the flaming eyes. Can I take a look at it? Qin Yin slowly opened the flaming eyes. Immediately, Qianfeng was covered in cold sweat and said, What a powerful domain. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Marshal Qianfeng, you must have something to do in the imperial capital this time. Logically speaking, Ba Huang province is being rebuilt. As the governor, you should be extremely busy. That's right. I have something to do. Qianfeng said, when we were excavating underground magic crystals, we accidentally collapsed a mountain and made some shocking discoveries at the bottom of the mountain. What discovery? There are many people here. Lin Muyu smiled and waved her hand to dismiss the people around her. There were only 3 to 5 people left. Qianfeng quickly took out a white handkerchief and slowly unfolded it. There were actually 2 dead bees lying quietly in the handkerchief and said, This is the discovery. Winter is coming, but there are still bees? Qin Yin was stunned. Your Highness, the truth is here. Qianfeng quickly pulled the bee's head and tail apart. He saw that the inside of the bee was not some internal organs but a metallic cylinder. There were even sparks on it. Chip. Lin Muyu's body trembled. Chapter 950. What is a chip? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were puzzled. It's hard to explain in a few words. Lin Muyu held the chip in her hand and looked at it carefully under the sunlight. She said, Marshal Qianfeng, are there any other strange discoveries besides these? Yes. Qianfeng nodded. There is a huge building complex at the foot of the mountain. It's very strange. I can't tell what it is. The periphery has been destroyed by the armored demons, but the interior has been preserved by my order. This kind of bees swarm, countless, and there are still countless bees in some sealed boxes in the building complex. They are the chips you mentioned, Lin General. What is a chip? It's a kind of technology. Lin Muyu nodded and said, It's a product that is at least 200 years ahead of our current technological era or even more. I can't tell for the time being, but this matter is of great importance and is very likely to affect the development of the continent in the future. Since this thing is found in the mountains of the Tongtian Gorge, let's go and have a look at it immediately. I also want to see what it is with my own eyes. Yes. Qianfeng made a fist and palm salute. Qin Yin puffed out her chest and said, I want to go too. Tang Xiaoxi also nodded. Lin Muyu frowned. The people of the Congress are stirring up trouble in Lanyan City. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to all go there. It's not inappropriate. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples. If we fly in the air, it will take us at most 1 day to go to the Tongtian Gorge and 2 days at most. The capital is guarded by General Feng and Ai Yan. Nothing serious will happen. Besides, didn't you order the Longdan army camp to guard Lanyan City? Well, let's go now. We can still make it in time for the morning court meeting the day after tomorrow. All right. Lin Muyu nodded at Qianfeng and said, in that case, Marshal Qianfeng will lead the way. We have to rush to Tongtian Gorge as fast as possible. It just so happens that Xiaoyin hasn't been to Ba Huang province since she came back. Let's treat this trip as a long journey for the Empress. Qianfeng cupped his fists. It is my province's honor to have your highness inspect Ba Huang province. Then let's go. Yes. In the sky, 4 figures rushed into the sky. When they reached a height of almost 1,000 meters, they suddenly turned and rushed towards the northeast. Qianfeng, who had the lowest cultivation among the 4, was also close to the God King realm. They were very familiar with flying. Compared to the peri-celestial experts, they knew better how to use their divine power to fly and maintain their physical strength and speed. While flying at high speed, it was a piece of cake to overlook thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. The beauty of the shattered cauldron world far surpassed that of the celestial pole continent. The mountains, rivers were beautiful. The land was lush, and it also surpassed the wilderness and deserts of the celestial pole continent. The main drainage basin of the Rice River cut the land into several pieces, while the subdrainage basin nourished and irrigated thousands of miles of farmland. Along the way there were groups of villages and sheep herding. The shattered cauldron world, which was still considered rich after several wars, was indeed a treasure among the stars. This is our world. Lin Muyu said excitedly. The corner of Qin Yin's mouth rose slightly. She maintained the speed of flying side by side with Lin Muyu and said, this is the world that Brother Yu has endured all these years to protect. The people of the nation are right about one thing. The world belongs to the people of the world and not directly to the emperor. For so many years, the 3 kings have ruled the world with benevolence and righteousness. You guys have worked hard. Lin Muyu laughed softly. It's not hard. Don't we have Xiaoyin now? Brother Feng and I can also rest a little and slack off. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips. The nation has repeatedly caused trouble. I think you and General Feng can't slack off. Lin Muyu smiled. She looked at Qianfeng and said, Marshal Qianfeng, you have also heard about the matter of the nation's army, right? I have heard a little about it. Qianfeng said in a deep voice. Given my temperament, I will definitely not condone the nation. I would rather fight to the death than kill this group of despicable people. However, Her Highness Yin and Lin General Lin's actions are more inclined to the way of the king. They are much more brilliant than what I, a general from a humble background, would do. However, what I don't understand is, since Lin General allowed the nation to continue, does he not have any plans for the future? He has plans. A radiance flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She said, there is nothing wrong with the constitutional monarchy. It is a progress of civilization. What is wrong is that the nation has been controlled by a group of despicable people with military power. If we could change the blood of the nation, perhaps this nation would become a true nation. It could be a nation that can help Xiaoyin strategize, share responsibilities and formulate the nation's strategy. Qin Yin was slightly startled. She opened her small mouth. Big brother, you know so many things. Wait until you return to my hometown. You will naturally understand why I know all these. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose. But that might be something that will happen 10 or even 20 years later. Without the strength of a grand perfection god emperor, it would be hard to travel through space to return to my hometown because that place is too far away. It is unbelievably far. Qin Yin nodded lightly. I will work hard to cultivate. In the wind, Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with expectation and gentleness. At this moment she did not look like an empress. Instead she looked more like Lin Muyu's long-awaited girlfriend. Perhaps the sands of time would sharpen one's willpower, allowing one to understand what one wanted more. In the past, Qin Yin wanted to live up to her ancestors and support Great Qin. Now, after experiencing so many things, Qin Yin finally understood that accompanying the person she loved was the most beautiful dream. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at them. She smiled. Then what is Mu's plan for the future of the nation? Yes. Lin Muyu pondered. The Qin Empire has a total of 13 provinces and more than 150 states. Hence, We can issue an edict to choose a member from each state to participate in the parliament. And this member should be a person with lofty ideals. With these members we can replace the feudal vassals in the parliament. Step by step we can reform the parliament. In less than half a year the parliament will be renewed. Xianxia was surprised. Actually, I have the same idea. Let's implement it after we return. When the sun was setting, the four of them flew into Tongtian Gorge. Looking down, the barracks in the gorge stretched for dozens of miles. Rows of Central South Iron Cavalry finished their training and were on their way back. In the past half a year, Tongtian Gorge had been attacked time and time again. But the army was getting bigger and bigger. There were at least 50,000 Iron Cavalry in the gorge. Qianfeng was indeed an outstanding general. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It seems that our Ba Huang province is now strong and well-equipped. Qianfeng also smiled. Thanks to Lin General's edict, Yunzhong province and Tianshu province have been transporting supplies to Ba Huang province. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to gather such a large team. Not only that, there are already 10 giant flying snakes in the insect nest. They're just waiting for Lin General's command. The whole army of the celestial race will fight to the death for the Qin Empire. All right. Qianfeng suddenly pointed to the distance and said, "That hill is right in front of us. We'll be there soon. Shall we go down?" The four of them swooped down. Sure enough, half of the hill in the distance had obviously collapsed. There were traces of battle on the periphery, and pieces of broken steel were scattered all over the ground. Lin Muyu looked carefully. The hill had collapsed at least 300 meters deep into the ground. There was actually a building complex in such a deep place. How much manpower was needed to build such a building? Perhaps it had long surpassed the difficulty of building a pyramid. However, the manpower and material resources of the Broken Cauldron realm were obviously ordinary. How could they build such a building that was so ingenious? "Greetings, Marshal." A group of high-level demon guards knelt down one after another. Qianfeng walked in front and said, "Her Highness the Empress, Lin General and Princess Xi are all here. Lead the way. They want to see this unknown and mysterious domain." Yes. The demons had just built a wooden corridor, but it was very unstable. However, it was still there. Lin Muyu and the others didn't intend to use any corridor. Instead, they leaped and flew in the air, slowly descending. In the depths of the ground, faint rays of light appeared. It was the torches in the hands of the demons. Lin Muyu raised her hand and took out her 7 luminaries' celestial gourd. The light of dawn burst out, instantly illuminating the entire huge cave. At this moment, everyone could see that it wasn't a cave, but a completely different world. At a depth of 300 meters, the ground was filled with densely packed integrated circuit boards. In addition, there were human-shaped steel ants that looked like ants. However, they were all lying on the ground in piles. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Qianxia had a doubtful look on her face. Qianfeng cupped his fists and smiled. "There's nothing we can do. When we first entered the cave, these steel ants actually moved and even attacked our army. Fortunately, I mobilized 20,000 armor demons and annihilated them all." Lin Muyu frowned. Qianfeng didn't know that these were actually robots, just like worker ants. This unique world was dug and built by these worker ants. This place was more like a huge machine workshop. Judging from the aura, there wasn't a trace of human presence. It should be a world of machines. Everyone be careful. Lin Muyu pulled out the Shenyuan sword and said, "There may be unpredictable dangers." Qianxia and Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly. Although they didn't know what happened, Lin Muyu must have her reasons for being so nervous. Under the guidance of several high-level demons, everyone walked along this high-tech building complex for nearly 10 minutes. Qianfeng said, "If we go any further, we'll reach that big guy." "Big guy?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Yes, a big guy made of a whole piece of steel building, but we don't know what it is. However, I've issued an order to set that place as a forbidden area. No one is allowed to enter. Let's go and have a look." Lin Muyu's heart moved. Further ahead there was a huge alloy door, but it had been split open and the crack had been melted. Needless to say, it must be Qianfeng's masterpiece. This kind of alloy was very strong, but it couldn't withstand a fierce blow from a god. After entering the door, there was a huge operating space. When Lin Muyu stepped in, a very stiff computer-synthesized voice came, "Shutdown system."